Welcome to the Wednesday, March 14th, 2018 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. I call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded and aired live by LCTV, as well as being live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement for anyone else to disclose if they are recording this meeting. Okay. We will move. Oh, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we will move on to correspondence. Melanie.
Again, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's names. Emailed letters expressing support for Superintendent O'Shea and/or concern regarding recent executive sessions to discuss his contract and requests for more information. Correspondence on this subject was received from Jennifer Cosgrove, 2/13/18, Colleen Cummings, 3/7/18, Dawn Fisher, 3/8/18, Lisa Foster, 3/1/18, Jamie Hench and Lynn Pantusco Hench, 2/13/18, and the same again on 3/1/18. Christine King, 3/7/18, John and Victoria McDonald, 2/27/18, Marie Murphy, 2/15/18, 3/7/18, and again on 3/7/18. Patrick O'Shea, 2/27/18. Maria Murphy, 2/15/18, 3/7/18, and again 3/7/18. The Powells, 3/7/18. Katie Grimes Rufo, 3/8/18. Kathleen Rosado, 2/27/18. Anthony Santos, 3/8/18. Amy Westaver, 2/28/18. Do I need to read that after that?
No.
Okay, Sean Tian, reporter for The Republican, 2/14/18. Amy Phillips, producer at WWLP 22 News Investigation Team on 2/14/18. Dan Kelleher on 2/13/18. May and Dennis O on 2/15/18. Dennis Gagnon Jr. on 2/14/18. John Back, 2/13/18. James Flaherty, 2/13/18. Carol Daigle, 2/13/18. Emilio and Donna Malchiona, 2/14/18. John Rossio, 2/13/18. Michael Barasi, 2/13/18. Robert O'Connell and others on 2/14/18. Mark Gold, 2/16/18. And John McDonald on 2/17/18. We also have an emailed letter from Mr. David Robinson, 1970 LHS graduate, dated February 19, 2018, regarding the recent events in Parkland, Florida, and a book he has written regarding his proposed 28th Amendment. We have an email from Dr. Lucy Schrenker, music teacher in the Long Meadow Public Schools, dated March 6, 2018, regarding students from Blueberry Hill who recently made the All-State Treble Chorus and performed at the MMEA conference in Boston. Lastly, we have an emailed letter dated March 5, 2018 from Mr. Donald Jarvis of Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative regarding the Student of the Month for February 2018. Long Meadow students honored are Austin Munson, Integrated Occupational Prep, and Joseph Klazek, Integrated Occupational Prep as well. And that's it. I did that in one breath.
Good job. Okay, we do not have approval of the minutes on the agenda for today. Any visitor comments?
Hello. 118, Roby Banco. Yada, yada, yada. 3 kids in the school district. My message is very short and sweet. I just want to thank you guys for the many hours y'all spent last week. 2 nights in a row. I understand you guys were here extremely late, coming to an agreement with the superintendent about how to move forward, and I just want to say I'm very appreciative for you guys, for the work that you put into it, and for the time you spent, and that we are moving forward. Really very appreciative. So let's just look forward and not backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Visitor comments? Okay. We will move on to school committee announcements and recognition. Okay. Business with guests, the METCO report. Ms. Bertrand will present the school committee with a detailed report on the METCO program.
You want to let Sandy talk first while I get
Sure.
there? Okay. That'd be okay with you? You want me to go first? Oh, no, I don't mind.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
I'm happy to be here. I gather, well, I'm here for you to ask me any questions you would like to about the METCO program. I am going to, if you don't mind, give you one of these each. But I entered Long Meadow Public Schools for the METCO program in 1977. I don't know how that happened. So this is my 41st year. And I came here for one student in particular.
Thank you.
And then things just developed and they grew. And I am happy to have been here that long. I know when I first came, and I guess I don't need a mic, I have that voice. But I know when I first came here, I thought that Long Meadow was right here. I still think that. But I thought that because they dared to have the METCO program here. They dared to have it here. And Westfield was one of the other one. East Long Meadow came along, Hamden Wilbraham, Westfield closed down, then we had Southwick. It has been a wonderful program. I have seen the students grow. I even rode the bus for 21 years because I wanted to know what it was like for the kids to come out first thing in the morning, and that's when I allowed them to eat their breakfast. If they didn't eat it at home, I allowed that. They don't do that anymore. But I got to know my parents and got to know the students and got to know them very, very well. In the last couple of years, I have to say that things are not what they were before. And I say that because somehow, and I don't know how and who said, but somehow things were taken out of my hands, so to speak. Because I called, as soon as I got the names of all the new students, I called the parents, I had them come in with their students, and they filled out the application with me. And I made sure that their medical things were up to date and all of that. Well, somehow, and I don't know how, that stopped. And so the last 2 years, the students, they know me. I'm everybody's grandmother, and I like that too. Yeah, but not all the parents know me well. So what we're going to start doing, again, is have our parent meetings. We have a parent meeting coming up at Mason Square Library on the 22nd of this month. And all the towns are going to get together. And this is one thing that, we're going to have to talk about at the very beginning of the school year. We want hands-on again. Let's see. Is there anything that you can think that you want to ask me? You have this now, and you can ask me anything. I know the bus is a big concern, and I'm hoping that we get back to doing the 01109 area again. I'm hoping that we do that. And if you're outside of that area, then you must bring your child to the 01109. So I'm hoping that we do that again, because it is a long bus ride. It really is.
So I think I can clarify what Sandy's talking about. A few years back, Diane, you probably know better than I because you're the one that's doing it now, but we centralized registration to central office in order to try to streamline things and make it easier. And I think at that point, Sandy, everybody got sent to the central office instead of sent to different, school buildings or whatever. So I think that's how the kind of the initial meeting got waylaid. So that was
Sue, can I just ask for a clarification? What do you mean when you say what got moved to central office? What exactly?
initial registration of all students comes through central office now. So
and before it went through Ms.
the
McDonald?
METCO students went through Sandy.
Went through me.
The lottery got digitized. It's an electronic lottery now.
okay.
They send their names right to central office. All of our kindergartners are required to come here to register now because there's not, because there's no assistance in the elementary schools in the summer. We were having problems with that. So kind of by nature of default, everybody goes through the same process.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a question for?
Yeah. So even though the registration happened that way, did you still get to have a meeting with each individual person at the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did. But unfortunately, two of them, our newest ones, it was over the phone.
Okay.
But we did meet. In fact, we met right here, not in this room. The other room, remember we had a meeting at the very beginning for the kindergartners came in, parents came in. Yes, in answer to your question, I did.
Is there anything that you think we could improve upon in regard to the program? I know you said try to focus on that one zip code again because that will help with the transportation. But are there other aspects of the program that you think the committee or administration can work together to try and make better with you?
Right now, I would say that it's going well. The at the elementary level, and I talk to the parents. I want to make sure that the parents touch base. If they have any question, not touch base with me. They can afterwards, or even before, but that's what I ask them to do. I'm trying to get the parents, especially the new ones, to come in, and if they have any questions, to deal right directly to the school. I think that's the best way. Then if push comes to shove and you need me to assist, I've gone into parent meetings that the parent may call me, or that the principal will call, or a teacher may call and say, Sandy, we're having Mrs. Jones come in. Are you able to make it that day? And that's fine with me. But it's important that they get the feel of the community, I think. And so sometime I do step back, but I'm always available. But I do step back because I want them to feel the community, and it's a wonderful community for all concerns. In fact, I wrote this down. This is in my office, and I'm sure you've heard it. Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. That's what I live by, and that's what I teach the kids. And there's a poster in my room for the Unity Club, and that's what it says. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jess? Sandy, what's your sense of when you interact with the parents of students and with the students, what's your sense of their experience coming to Longmeadow? Do you feel that, and you can give anecdotal stories too if that's better, but just generally, do students feel comfortable? Is it something that's you think overall is a positive experience for students? I know that's a tricky question sometimes, and but I really want to put it on the table, frankly.
Okay, that's okay.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, there's, you know what, this is what it is with me. I never say I. I never say I. It's all about the students, it's all about the kids, and it's all about the families. You will never, I don't think there's anyone here that know me well that says I. I don't do that. But I love your question, because the parents, when they come in to this town, they think their child has it all written. Their life is written out. And it's true. I like the program, and I'll tell you why I like it.
When you say written out, you mean like a good
yes,
experience?
Oh, they're going to Longmeadow, so I know they're going to college. I know
It's a good thing.
This is all good.
Okay.
This is all good. This is why I'm still here.
Okay.
Because in Springfield, nothing wrong with Springfield. I went to Springfield schools. That's fine. But in here, they come, and the kids hear about colleges, so it gets them excited. In elementary school, not so much, but by middle school, the kids start talking about it, and that's a good feeling, that they can come to me and say, Ms. Mack, I want to do this when I go to school, and I want to do that when I go to college, and I want to I think that's wonderful. And that's what the town has given to them. They see that there's ways and means, because I say it's a college town, and it is. But they see ways and means that they can make it for them, so I think it's good. And the parents are relaxed when the kids come here as a rule. They're nervous because it's a long bus ride. But once they get into the school, and you'll see with the survey that was done, that the parents feel very comfortable.
Yeah, so I was reading, it sounds consistent with some of the research I was reading and some of the studies about METCO that says that and tell me if this hits you as accurate, that studies consistently show that these students graduate from high school at greater rates than they would have otherwise. They outperform on standardized tests, and they it says over 90% of the graduates go to 2 or 4-year colleges. And it really increases the
Yeah, it
opportunity
is
for them
more than
to
that
attend
now.
4-year colleges.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you tell me if you've received any feedback from these families? I've often wondered how it feels for them to have one child here and not the other siblings, and how do they navigate through that? And then I also want to ask about just access to sports and after-school activities, if there's a barrier there for them.
No, there's not a barrier. After-school activities, we have a late bus, I don't know if you know that, but we do have a late bus. But the parents are willing to pick them up after school. So no, I don't see that is a problem. What was your other
The
question?
siblings,
Yeah.
how it feels for them, if they just have one.
It's bothersome. We had one, and I don't know if they've graduated. They had one here, one in Wilbraham, and one in East Long Meadow, because they just wanted them in the METCO program. We have talked about, I guess Choice does, and correct me if I'm wrong, but does Choice have the siblings come in? We've talked about that, but with Boston. And what they said was it's difficult to do that because you're not generating, I'll say, new families. And you want to generate new families. I think that's the way, basically, they put it. Yeah, it's hard.
It's
It's hard.
two sides of a coin, right? Do you get more families involved, or do you kind of prioritize limited numbers of families? And so,
Have they ever
And-
thought about trying to come in through choice?
Yes.
we have some data on that.
We have some data on it, and when the parents call and say, what must I do, and I tell them where to go in Springfield, Parent Center, and all of this, and I says, but I want you to sign up for the Choice program as well. And also, some of that is because we're only accepting kindergarten, which I think it's a wonderful idea. We even tried 1 year, 1st and 2nd grade, and we need to start in kindergarten. And so that was a negative also for those that wanted siblings because they were already in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or middle school type of thing.
I will say, last year I had contacted a bunch of schools out in the eastern part of the state about their METCO program. How do you run it? And I do, because I actually at that time had questions about the kids coming in kindergarten. I was like, is this fair? And then I heard what some of those schools were doing. They were having the kids come in, they were testing them before they came in to make their decision. And I thought, you know what? I think we're doing it the right way.
Yes, yes, you really are.
Yeah.
You really are.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Just in terms of how often, so you're looking to change and kind of get that hands-on approach again, which I find to be so valuable in hearing from the parents. And I know that the ball was dropped with transportation this year. We're trying to fix it, and I know it's disruptive at this point to parents and trying to get their feedback on what will work for them, as I think there's still, kinks that trying to rectify that problem. How often are you looking to meet with them? And when you meet, is it just with them? Is it with different towns with the METCO? And how much collaboration is there with surrounding towns who participate in METCO?
We have met separately over the years. The 22nd, we're meeting with all the other towns. That's a good way that we can find out what's working for them and what isn't. Because we're not saying that we've got all hands on. I think that we do very well. But we're talking with the other towns. It just makes it, the camaraderie of it all is really a good thing. Yeah. So on the 22nd, we will be meeting all together. Okay. But I won't say that will happen every month.
And that's in Springfield, your meeting?
Springfield, Mason Square Library. Okay. From 6 to 7:30. From 6 to 7:30.
I would love to hear, because I think METCO in general, there are things that work and there are things that don't work throughout the whole program, and they have a new person who's come on board as a director, and I think it presents an opportunity to really advocate for Springfield and to Boston for what's working and what we need, and if they want this program to continue, they need to keep funding it and maybe even fund it a little bit more.
Fund it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sandy, do you think that's something that you'll talk about at your meeting, is the funding issue and how we as a district and surrounding districts can advocate for more funding? Because it's definitely dwindled since its initiation, of course.
Yes.
And even over the past 5 years.
Yes. And the answer to your question is yes. We really need to do that. And we've met with Boston before. Sue can tell you we've met with Boston in the past. They're not coming to this particular meeting. But we want to have questions for them, and so that we can send them on to them. And that is definitely one of them. That is definitely one of them.
Because I think in our position and what we do in our role, that would be something that we could collaborate on in terms of advocacy. Mm-hmm. And I would be very interested in, touching base with you about how to go about that, and keeping the committee informed about some things we can do as a district, and certainly working with Sue on that, because that's part of what we do and how we can help also.
Yes.
So please keep us in mind also in terms of support and advocacy.
I think on the METCO Inc. Sorry.
Go ahead.
On the METCO Inc. website, there are some links to write to your legislatures about funding. So that's always helpful. The more you can do along those lines is great. Yeah, along the lines of Springfield's running the METCO program, there has been lots of turnover in that program for the folks who run the grant, and really this year they were inundated with folks coming from Puerto Rico, and that happens to be their job as well. So METCO, no disrespect, was never a major priority for them.
Right.
And very hard to get them to come to a meeting. They've been changing hands yearly, and sometimes even in the middle of the year. So we have a new director who came on just a little bit ago. Maybe there's some hope there, I'm not sure. But I know they have their hands full in Springfield, and this is kind of a really small potato for them. So. All right.
One quick question, I don't know if we can even answer it, but is there data on how many people apply for the lottery each year, specific to our?
That's a great question.
There has been, not just here, there has been, and I would say it usually runs anywhere, and this is, not written in stone, but it usually runs anywhere from 200 to 350 people.
Wow.
All total, for all towns.
Okay.
For all towns,
Gotcha.
not just Long Meadow,
Okay.
but just for all
Yeah.
towns.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an electronic lottery,
Yeah.
and so folks are applying now online, and it's all digital. So we haven't gotten a lot of feedback on how many apply for the program versus how many get chosen for the program, but it's a really small percent of folks who apply who get chosen,
Right.
for sure.
Okay.
Because we take 4 per year, so.
Yeah,
I mean-
give or take, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other districts are about where we're at as far as bringing students in, so.
Thank you. So can we separate out Long Meadow in terms of how many applicants?
No, it goes
Okay.
into a central pile.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
then they draw. They say, okay, I'm drawing, 4 Long Meadow students. I'm drawing 4 East Long Meadow students, like that. And the only opportunity we have for kind of a sibling preference is that if somebody gets drawn as a sibling and there's an older student maybe in Hamden Wilbraham, say, and we get the kindergartner, we might be able to swap for one of their kindergartners,
We've done
at the end game. And so METCO Inc. has a lot more opportunity for that. There's so many more participating districts, so they can swap, once the kids get assigned, if there's availability, but.
So, is this accurate that we have East Long Meadow, Hamden, Wilbraham, and Southwick Tolland? Is
Yes.
that
That's right.
still up to date?
Yep.
And do they accept about the same number of students that we accept?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're talking, you said 250, anywhere from,
I said for anywhere from 150 to 350 apply, but
and we're taking like, in this region, 16 kids, maybe.
And I can't verify any
you
data
can't
recently
verify that
of
part.
how many applicants.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe
Right.
That
After this
sounds-
lottery, we can check into it.
Does that sound about right?
That may be right, but I can't count. I don't know.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I'm
I
just-
really
Five
don't.
schools, the first
I
school.
really
Yeah.
don't. What most of the towns do, and what we used to do, and I hope that we get back to, if five graduated, then we have 5 come in, and I believe they do the same thing. If 2 graduate, then they have 2 come in. But I won't speak for them. I can only speak for what we used to do.
Yes. But the point being that we have a significant number of families who want to be involved,
Yes.
and very few slots in Western Massachusetts.
Correct.
Not even that many school districts that are participating.
It's similar to choice, like many
Yeah.
applicants and very few
True.
slots available
But
for students. so.
there's such different programs, I don't want to compare the
Right.
two, because they're
Right.
completely different programs. So-
Thank you. I know, Sue, you
Yeah.
have a
Thank
great
you very much.
presentation, and then we can do more questions, or, okay.
Could I just ask you to read that note card again? 'Cause I
Oh.
missed the beginning of it. Would you mind?
My little note card? I know it. Coming together is beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. I believe
love
that wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Okay, Sue, you
All
have the
right.
stage.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a little history of the program. Began in 1966. Sandy is being modest. She has not been here that long, but she's been here for this is her 41st year. A large handful of students got together actually to celebrate Sandy. METCO graduates earlier in the school year, right? They threw her a little party up at the high school and did a bigger party than that. So she has had a lot to do with our METCO families.
I'll show it off.
She-
I'll show it off.
If you're in the community with Sandy, if you're in the school, everybody knows her, but if you're in the community, everybody knows her too. She's in touch with graduates, their families. She goes to weddings, she goes to funerals, she goes to campfires with them. They are involved in church services together, so she's being modest when she, says that she's pulled back. She's really entrenched in many, many of their lives, well beyond their graduation. So that's my plug for Sandy. But
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you.
her the METCO is the Metropolitan Council for Educational Opportunities. Its goal initially was to expand the educational opportunities for our minority students, to increase diversity, to reduce racial isolation. At present, 38 Boston area districts participate in METCO Inc., a huge operation. They have lots of employees at METCO Inc., much different than we are. I think Springfield graciously manages the lottery and things like that, but they don't have nearly as much involvement in this Western Mass METCO as METCO Inc. does. The 4 towns there that are currently involved in METCO, right? Right now, we have 34 students of color currently attending, and students of color can be many, many, many races, which we do have. We have them from many Springfield neighborhoods, representing several religions, and about 1.2% of Long Meadow students are METCO students, compared to METCO Inc. is probably closer to 4%. of their students. Just a little bit of fiscal information. The grant is funded by the state of Massachusetts. This year is $220,107. It's a pretty standard grant. They give us a per pupil allotment based on enrollment from the prior year. This year it was $4,090. It has not increased, nearly as much as other grants have as far as the per pupil allotment is concerned. I think it was in the high 3,000s when and it hasn't gone much more than that. If you remember, I think our tuition, that the per pupil allotment is about $15,000. So really underfunded there. If anyone wants to make a phone call,
Yeah.
right? We get no reimbursement for special education services. We do no pre-screening of students. We don't believe in that. Obviously, I think it's a violation of civil rights. So we don't know who's coming until they get here, which is how it needs to be. Required. Our transportation allotment is $72,900. It's been a standard allotment for as long as I can remember. We always need to put additional funds into transportation. This year, this is FY18, I think, funding. Regular buses right now about $116,000, and then we have a late bus at $58.50. So we're over the allotted transportation costs, right? Changes in enrollment this is about the last 10 years of enrollment. We have had 35 students enrolled in the program. 5 moved, Arizona, Agawam, North Carolina, Wilbraham, Connecticut. 1 transferred back to a charter school in Springfield because they had a sibling there. 1 student returned to Springfield Public Schools. 2 were retained, and 1 was accelerated. The little student actually started first grade and didn't stay long, went to second. So that has hardly ever happened. This is a really challenging chart to read, but it represents the information that you just saw. The gold are students who moved and what grade they moved in. The little purple is the student who accelerated, and the pink boxes are students who were retained. So kind of if you look, diagonally down, the numbers, if they change, then there's some kind of student enrollment movement one way or the other. So the bottom line, 12th grade, those students are the graduates. All of our 12th graders graduated. So you have that in your packet, but.
Just quickly, if a student is retained or accelerated, does that change the numbers for next year?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Sorry. If the students are retained or accelerated, does that affect the numbers for the next year, or is it still, 4 kids come in?
It's really up to school committee.
Okay.
So I think it depends on the philosophy of the committee at the time.
Okay.
And, so we've tried to kind of fulfill the graduate roles,
Yes,
but
yes.
sometimes we do less and sometimes you're gracious and do more, so. Okay. Here we take information on post-high school plans. So here are our graduates' plans, at least, what they told us when they were leaving. Most of the students go to either a 2 or 4-year college. I'll let you peek at that. I know you have it in your packet, so I don't want to just repeat. This is just a smattering of the colleges that our METCO students have attended. This isn't just the past 10 years. This is over time. A pretty impressive list. Some of the careers that they've undertaken. Marissa Mosley is the UConn women's assistant coach. If you wanna, she's a Longmeadow METCO graduate. So you can find them in all walks of life. My favorite, transportation. When METCO first began, students were limited, not living there necessarily, but limited to getting a bus in the 01109 zip code. That's that kind of around Mason Square area. The program is expanded citywide. Students can enroll from anywhere in Springfield. Our bus route time has increased significantly this year. There's a lot of construction happening in Springfield. The geographical range of students has grown, and the LPVEC has been very kind, I've discovered, and honored some parent requests. So that has added time to our bus. Currently, our first stop is at 6:50 in the morning, and our last stop is 8:26, according to the bus routes, the way they run them for LPVEC. The bus drivers will tell you that that's not true. They get there earlier than that and pick them up later, but that's really the only document that we have to go on. Last year, I was telling Stephanie earlier, our first stop was at 7:17, so it moved back quite a bit this year. Here are the addresses of all of our METCO students. If you're good with maps and geography, you can see that they represent Springfield in its entirety. The one in the top right, that student is close to the Ludlow line, and the top left, that student is close to the Chicopee line, and down as close as Sumner Avenue, and then that red dot, if you can see in the bottom, that's Longmeadow. So we have 3 buses. Two buses to do all of this at our different schools.
During rush hour.
During rush hour with
During construction.
casino construction,
Yep.
there's construction downtown around AIC and Bay Street, and so here's the 01109 to the best of my drawing ability.
Yes.
Don't hold me to that, but so some considerations for transportation for you. Really limiting transportation to strategic stops, not necessarily within 01109 maybe, but asking parents to bring their students to a stop that would be a safe place for students to park and wait for a bus. Another option is adding additional transportation vehicles. Right now we have, I want to say, 6 students riding on a somewhat regular basis at the high school. I mean, if a van was less expensive, which they don't seem to be, we might consider a van at the high school as opposed to another big bus. And then going forward, maybe thinking more about designating one school at each level so that the bus didn't have to stop at all 3 elementary schools. Just a thought. We're open to any other considerations. So we did a parent survey and a student survey and asked them some questions, and this was about the bus specifically. So I don't want to read them all to you, but I'll summarize that the feedback was that the bus rides were too long for the little kids especially. Interesting because the students don't feel that way, but the parents, some of the parents do. And I will aggregate all the responses to the feedbacks and give them, just send them out emails so you have all of them. But many, many parents love the bus driver and the bus monitor. Students, not so much. These are from the middle school and high schoolers. The elementary kids don't have an email, so we couldn't do a survey with them. But the bus driver, one in particular, is pretty strict about the no talking, no eating, basically no fun requirement. I think that lasts for like, I don't know, a half an hour into the ride, and once they hit a certain point, they can start talking.
Yes.
So they have these rules they have to follow. Parents love it, students not so much again. I doubt the bus was silent when that student was in middle school very much, but, you know, perspective is everything, right? 72% of our students are very positive about riding the bus, and 28 didn't have a feeling one way or the other about it. So. Services that our METCO students participate in, basically everything that we offer everybody. They become part of our Longmeadow community. They take part in all of the supports that you see. I know I've talked before about the banquet for graduating seniors. It's really a good place to go to get a feeling for what the program has provided for the families and students. So if anybody wants to be my date for the banquet, let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is just some feedback in general. We asked them lots of questions. And these are about 16 parents, I think, responded last I checked. I found this really interesting. How do parents find out about METCO? Over 90% of the parents found out by word of mouth. Springfield advertises. I don't know if they just put like this little tiny thing somewhere on paper, but it's very clearly they heard from a friend, a parent, a family member who had somebody here, so it was mostly word of mouth. I wanted to know if they applied for choice at the same time. not very many percentage of the people who answered did, 26%. And just talked to a couple of family members, and they didn't apply because Choice does not provide transportation, and METCO does. And so that would have been a hardship to get students here. What percentage currently do our families have? Of the folks who answered, 38% have students in more than one district. What challenges? I think they're the obvious ones: different cultures, school schedules, expectations, school portals, like the things we don't even think about, right? School portals. It's hard enough to remember to get one kid's school portal, right? And then they're doing one for here, one for here in Wilbraham, one for Springfield potentially. Meal provisions. So I think everybody in Springfield takes part in breakfast. We don't have a breakfast program here. Payment for meals, snow days, all of the things that we thought, and they've done some. How do parents feel about their students' academic experience? Overall, they're very positive about their academic experience here. Social experience, the same. The most important benefits of the METCO program were broadening educational experiences and preparing for college and school safety was high on parents' lists. How well are parents' expectations being met in the following areas? Preparing their children to succeed, met very well. We gave them a scale, kind of. Providing a rigorous curriculum, met very well. Developing lasting friendships, met very well. I was really happy to see that. Expanding diversity. This is the one area that parents had a not met or met somewhat answer. And we're not so diverse here in Longmeadow, although we're getting there. We have a lot more cultures and folks coming in, but we're still, fairly vanilla. Overall, how positive do parents feel about the METCO program? 60% very positive, 72% mostly, and 13% neutral. Give it much thought, I guess. What can be done to improve? Getting bus stop information sooner. Using email more than paper to communicate. That parent thinks their student's not giving them their messages, apparently. More parent events. Sibling entry into the program, that is out of our hands. We have asked Springfield METCO for that consideration probably for the last 8 years,
At least.
to no avail. So maybe that's another kind of campaign to the senators, but there are two sides of it. Do we include as many families as we can in the program, or do we limit the number of families because they have more than one child? It's a hard call. What if anything has made a positive difference? Sandy's name came up lots and lots. An entire team of teachers. We have a little one whose dad is a METCO graduate, and then special education services. Student feedback. It pretty much mirrors parent feedback, except for the bus is concerned. They feel like they've had a positive experience academically. Why do they like to be in the program? They have a wide range of classes, having friends in school, athletics. Remember, these are middle schooler and high schoolers only. How do they feel about riding the bus? Between positive and very positive. I was like, okay. What, if anything, would you change about the bus ride, the strict rules for elementary and middle schoolers? And they want the bus to get here on time. I think the bus is mostly early, but if you ride the late bus, how many times, we asked. 42% of our respondents ride 2 or 3 times, and 14% 4 or 5 times, and then the amount, many didn't ride. But it was good to know that kids were using it on a regular basis, and it we're kind of almost between sports right now, so that number could go up. There's always a handful of kids waiting for the late bus. What do students think are the most important benefits? Being prepared for college and career, developing lasting friendships, engaging in challenging curriculums, and fulfilling the high expectations of teachers. I thought that was a nice response from students. Again, how well are the students' expectations being met? The only area I want to say that children said, our students reported that their expectations were just somewhat met, was the diversity piece again. How they feel about their overall experience in Longmeadow schools. 100% good, very good, or excellent. What do students think will improve? When you get your responses, you'll see a response from a student, I don't know who it is because they're anonymous, who actually does some volunteering at Blueberry Hill School. She has some siblings at home who go to a different program, and she sees the benefits of the students at Blueberry, and makes this heartfelt plea to please let my siblings in. It's pretty heartbreaking. So that's a big one. And again, who has made a positive difference? Mrs. Math, Mrs. Locke made the cut, and so did Mr. Landers. And they seem to really like the bus driver and bus monitor.
They are great.
Even though they think they're too strict. Yeah, they are awesome. That's for sure.
They are awesome.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know the names, Mrs. Locke, is she
She's a teacher at the high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Principal Landers at the high school?
Yeah. So I wanted to see whether METCO Inc. was having, kind of similar experiences as we, or they were doing things that were different that we might want to try to copy. I got an earful from a couple of METCO directors out there that think they do have directors at their schools because they're such big programs out that way. But the transportation costs representing a major portion of the grant is a problem. The long bus ride. Students need to connect to communities or more. Parents, same thing. This was big. The need to teach culturally proficient practices to educators, which I think is timely because we're launching into that in a pretty big way next year. The over-identification of special education students was pretty prevalent. I would say the same here. I don't want to get into numbers publicly about that, but they represent a much higher percentage overall of students with special needs. Districts have a preference for kindergarten acceptance. Some of them don't always take kindergartners, but they like to. They get support from METCO Inc., I think more so than Springfield's able to give. Again, no disrespect to Springfield, I just don't think they have the manpower for it. And in a couple of the districts at least, they have counselors, adjustment counselors, guidance counselors, and licensed social workers to support teachers and students along the way in their journey. So that's a little bit different. We have C&D, but I think some districts have more, and they have like 15 elementary schools in their district, so there's no way we could spread from one person out that thin. But there you have it.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
So can we get the updated packet, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for waiting on that. They were coming in, and I just didn't want to.
I just stopped taking notes.
Yeah.
You can send it
I will.
forward it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Jess?
So I know that Eastern and Western, access and support is different, but I know that Newton does accept children K through 2 in grades K through 2, depending on availability, and that we can and we do have the flexibility to accept students at any grade if we so choose, if that was something we wanted to talk about. And I just wanted to say, I've said this before in meetings, but I wanted to say it again, that I think this is an incredibly important program. I think it's very valuable, and it's not a solution, and it's certainly not a perfect program from a funding perspective. But in terms of racial imbalance, I believe now and always have that it's a significant and worthwhile endeavor. And I hope that we'll remain committed to it. The original intent and the intent that continues today is to expand educational opportunities, increase diversity, reduce racial isolation by permitting students in the cities of Boston and Springfield to attend public schools in other communities. And the program provides students of participating school districts the opportunity to experience the advantages of learning and working in racially, ethnically, and linguistically diverse settings. And I think as, Longmeadow, I think we have an obligation to offer more slots to students when we have so many students, families in Springfield who are looking to get into Longmeadow and the other surrounding school districts. And I want to share this one quote with you because I believe METCO is so much about philosophy and not so much about dollars. As we all know, we don't get the dollars that we need. But this is a great quote by a gentleman by the name of David Deming, who's a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. And he said, and I love this, the discussion about integration is oftentimes an unspoken debate about schooling. And I'm going to please just give me one moment to read his quote to you, because I think it's salient. If you think the primary purpose is to instruct children in academic topics such as reading and math and science, you are much more willing to tolerate segregation so long as the schools are actually really good, he says. But if you think schools are not just about instruction, but that they are also social institutions and democratic institutions, and that they ought to teach children how to engage civically and understand people who are different from themselves, you want kids to mix with people who are not like themselves. And I just thought that captured the essence of METCO and what we want, and looking long-term into committing to the program. And so I am very grateful to Sue, and I'm very grateful to Sandy for the time and work that you've put in to bringing this information to us today. And I hope that we can really start to gather more information, advocate for funding, and my hope and my dream is to be able to get more students into these school districts that are participating in our region and strengthen our regional program the way that we talk about Eastern Mass. So I thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the METCO report or presentation? Stephanie?
Thank you so much. The information is really valuable, and I look forward to hearing more. And I think those parent meetings are going to be so essential, both to hear from their what's going on their end, and what we can do on our end, and what we need to advocate for, and maybe what we need to change. Or so that information, I think, will be really helpful. And I want to ask the committee. I know Jess feels the same way. I really believe in the METCO program. I think over the years I've seen across the state it going kind of as a check the box off, we're doing it kind of thing. And there's I feel like the opportunity is in front of us right now with the new CEO of METCO. I'm really excited about her in that role, and I really would like to, I know we have people assigned to SEAL and schools, but I wanted to ask the committee if you would be, what your thoughts are on my working with Sue and Sandy, both in getting information on METCO and from the parents, but also I would love to be able to advocate not only with Springfield, but with Boston on what our needs are, and how this is rolling out here, and what we would like to see happen with METCO. And so I wanted to kind of present that to you, if that would be something that you would be interested in having me do, because I would be very interested in doing it.
So just to clarify, you're raising your hand as a volunteer to be a liaison?
Yes.
Okay. Before we were going to ask for a liaison, I said, well, hang on. If you're volunteering. Jess?
So I'm going to make a motion so that we can discuss Stephanie's proposal. I move that the school committee appoint Stephanie Jasmine as the school committee's METCO liaison. And I just need a second for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. I think my only hesitation would be that we don't necessarily have this on the agenda as a vote. So I think that's my only concern, and if somebody knows whether or not we can take a vote without it having been posted.
I think it's okay because it's within the context of what were you going to say?
Of the report, maybe?
Yeah, it seems
Yep.
to me to
Okay.
relate.
Where's the touch?
I interrupt you, pass
Yeah.
me, interrupt you at 1 o'clock. when
Thank
Beth-
you. Yeah, let's just pause for a second and call Beth, because she wanted to be
Oh,
called in
yeah.
at 1 o'clock remotely. So go ahead, and while Marty's getting that going, the committee feels comfortable.
Yeah, I think as long as it relates to the overall topic that we're discussing, anyone can make a motion on the floor, even if it's not on the agenda.
Okay, I guess the worst that would happen is we just
Yeah, we just have to revote.
At the
Yeah.
next point. Russ?
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, I would say probably do a next meeting, but
It's not going to cause any
Yeah.
harm. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So then discussion related to the motion, which is to, Diane, did you get her motion? Was it to designate Stephanie as the liaison? Okay. We'll repeat the motion. Hi, Beth. You're on speakerphone.
Hi.
Are you ready for us?
Okay.
Okay, we have
I
Beth.
am. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Beth. We have Beth Barron participating remotely, so at this point, any votes would be a roll call vote. She's allowed to vote, but by roll call, so and Beth, as so should happen, we actually have a motion and a second on the table. Diane, can you read the motion for us? It's related to METCO. We're still in the portion of the meeting. We just had the presentation on METCO. Sorry to put you on the spot. Or Jess, if you have it written.
Ms. Hutchins moved, seconded by Mr. Dupre, that the school committee appoint Stephanie Jasmine to be their METCO liaison.
And we have a second. And Stephanie, do you want to just repeat what you had?
Yes.
For Beth?
I had actually raised this in our discussion, Beth. I feel strongly about METCO. I think that our district can gain so much from the diversity that this program offers and the children coming in. And I'm looking to work with Sue and Sandy really as a liaison in a similar fashion that we have people appointed to schools or to SEAL and other parts within our district. And I also want to use it as a way to advocate both in Springfield and in Boston for, for what we're looking, what we need and what we're looking for to really make this program continue to work and grow. So.
Great. I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate you taking it on, Stephanie.
Okay. Any other discussion related to the motion? Jess?
I don't want to confuse the motion, but I would be happy formally or informally, and I would like to be an alternate on that for Stephanie. So if the chair would allow me to amend the motion to include myself as the alternate, that would be great.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the motion. Is there a second for that? We need a
Second.
Okay. Okay, so we have to vote on the amendment to the motion right now, which is to add to the motion that Jess is an alternate.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion related to the amendment? All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Karen Moore and I.
Jess Hutchins, aye.
Melanie Malstein, aye.
Beth, this would be you. You're next for your telephone. You follow Melanie.
Call mine. Beth Barron, aye.
Michelle Grodzki, aye.
Russ Dupre, aye.
Stephanie Jasmine, aye.
Okay, so the motion on the amendment passes, and now we have the motion on the table to have Stephanie as the liaison and Jess as the alternate liaison to the METCO program. Any more discussion on the motion?
Can I just ask, I just wanted to get Sue and Sandy's thoughts on that, if you find that would be helpful.
I'm
to
already
kind of-
thinking of things to hand over to you.
It's a good thing. Yeah. I'm asking, and this is what I'm going to ask, if you let us bring this to our meeting on the 22nd without you.
Okay.
No, I just want, in fact, I'm meeting with the METCO, the other METCO coordinators on this Friday at Pinero's. But that's where we're meeting, and so I want to bring that to them. I don't want to surprise them. I think it's wonderful. I think they'll love it.
Yeah.
I think they will love it. And Sue, you have a list of things to hand over.
And I want, when you meet with them and kind of discuss it, it really is to work with both of you and work with them and be that liaison in whatever way that they see would be helpful, because they obviously believe in the program, and the idea is to grow it with them in a way that they would like to see it. So it's with you. You're not giving it out of me. But that really, that is it.
And Stephanie, also, it might be good at some point to reach out to the other 3 school districts and see if they want to consider doing the same,
Because-
having the same model.
Yeah, there is and I know, Sue, you spoke with Eastern Mass too, and it is different. I really feel strongly that if we're going to continue METCO in these few schools that engage in the program, we have got to be advocating for it, or we're just going to
fall off the
So
radar.
there was a time when we were considering trying to wrestle it away from Springfield, you know?
Yes,
Just
it
because
was.
they're just such a large district.
Yeah, got
I think
a lot
that has
going
kind of
on.
fallen
Yeah.
by
A lot
the
going on.
wayside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's an exciting time for METCO, and I kind of want to jump on that, and so I'm excited about it.
And two, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I see, I think it's a great idea as long as everybody agrees, so seeing no more discussion, we will do a roll call vote. All those in favor of the motion to add Stephanie.
Roll call.
By roll call vote, to add Stephanie, to have Stephanie be the liaison for the METCO program and Jess as the alternate. Roll call vote.
Karen Moore and I. Jess Hutchins, aye.
Melanie Rothstein, aye.
Beth, this is
Beth
you.
Baer and I.
Michelle Grodzki, aye.
Russell Dupre, aye.
Stephanie Jasmine, aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you very much. We will move on to the METCO discussion. This was an agenda item that was tabled at our last meeting. We were presented with a recommended motion from the administrators, which I will entertain. Russ?
Can I ask a question before we do that of Ms.
Sure.
McDonald?
Okay.
So on this motion, the recommended motion is 4 seats for kindergarten. And when I looked at the enrollment over time, it has dropped, which I think you
Yes.
kind of mentioned. And I think I also heard you say that you'd like us to get back to 5 per year ideally, which would get us back to that 40
Yes,
number.
because
probably.
our numbers were, our largest number was 58.
Okay,
That was our largest number. Yes,
okay.
I definitely would love to see that.
So I want to make a motion, but I want to obviously get input from the administrators after I do so, based on what you just said. So I'll make the motion and then we can talk about it.
But Russ, before you make the motion, so I'm just thinking 5 versus 6 in terms of 2 at each school.
Well, why don't I make a motion and we'll talk about that? Because I want to get the input of administration too.
Yeah, this is just to get a motion on the table.
But yes, I hear you. I move on the recommendation of the administrative team that the school committee accepts students in the METCO program for the 18-19 school year in the following grade level and number of seats. Kindergarten, 5 seats.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Now we will move on to discussion. Russ or Jess, did you want to?
Yeah, can we just talk about 5 and 6, those numbers?
Yeah, and so what I was going to do is ask Marty and Sue and Tom as well whether going from 4 to 5 would be okay, and then obviously Jess is asking if it would be okay to go to 6. I know it's not what we talked about, but is that going to cause any issues?
Well, depending on what you call it, consider
Issues.
issues, I guess, but we have had a ton of little kindergartners come through our doors, more so than I think we've had in the past, and I just want to be mindful of kindergarten enrollment. I think a lot of them are going to center, but they're coming in saying they didn't get the census, so we haven't accounted necessarily for them.
Okay.
So they may be above and beyond what we are expecting. So I want to be mindful of that. And the other thing is, if you're going to consider some kind of a transportation change to, that involves limiting it to 1 or 2 elementary schools, then you want to consider that too when you pick a number. Yes, right? You don't want to push any school over needing another teacher.
That is definitely a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, did you want to?
I think Sue kind of hit on the concerns I would have. Diane's getting the number of potential kindergarten registration, so we're up to 164 students, which is and I don't think this includes any METCO slots. So we'd be up to number 168, 69,
What did
170.
we have last year?
I think we're at like a,
At this time of the year, we had probably 130 on the list.
I think we ended
What
up
did we
like with
end up?
150
72 is how many are in kindergarten.
right now.
170.
So if we've got 168, we're going up.
And some of the concern is center school. The numbers could be upwards of 60 students, potentially if they all register.
Mhm.
We have 3 sections planned right now, so that could,
I think we're close to that.
yeah, so that could be an issue in terms of needing to consider adding another section. I would echo Sue's points about transportation. When you see that map and the geographical distribution of the students, trying to accommodate all of the middle and elementary schools on one bus with a run time of less than an hour, unless we do something different than what we're doing this year, it's not going to happen. And I think just to jump onto Jess's point of sending them to 3 different schools, that makes it even more challenging because now we're hitting 4 or 5 schools with one bus. So either students are getting dropped off early, or in some cases, maybe they're just getting there on time. So it's a little...
What was it this year for schools, Tom?
We have them hitting...
At all 3 schools?
All 3 elementaries and 1 middle school right now. So they're
already going to all 3 elementary schools?
They are, but if we keep adding them, we're never going to get to a point where we don't have to hit all 4 schools. So one of the recommendations we proposed was maybe designating 1 elementary. So it doesn't have to require the bus to hit all 4 schools, because then that affects drop-off times.
Yeah.
So it's just a way, again, of trying to address the issue.
So Sue has her hand up to respond to Russ's question, and I can sense that you want to...
No, I just would echo what Tom and Sue said. I think you just have to make the decision that you make with all the information on the table.
I'm not proposing anyone. And I think
it could be-
in 2 years, we won't have anybody at Blueberry, I want to say. 2 or 2 more years.
Could be-
Not that I'm not advocating for Blueberry, don't get me wrong, I'm just giving you the facts. But the other thing is, it's a program to promote diversity, and I struggle a little bit with placing 2 students at each school. It creates diversity for the students being placed there, but not for our students necessarily. What I'm saying, you need more than a couple little kids in a big school. You need a handful of students to represent.
It may be they want to give us the flexibility to assign the students at some future date when enrollment patterns become clearer, or...
Well, did you guys at Finance Sub, did you look at class sizes for kindergarten?
Well,
We
I
looked
think
at all class sizes, overall, and considered the class size and the budget with, what might happen if we added 1 or more students to either the school choice program or the METCO program.
Do we have the luxury of waiting until next meeting to have just the kindergarten class? Because, obviously, we can't make an educated decision if we don't know the class, projected class sizes and how many sections. And I know it's not a science with kindergarten, certainly, but, it's difficult to make any sort of placement decisions like this. What?
When's our next meeting?
2 weeks.
28th.
I don't know that we're going to have enough concrete information on kindergarten registration in 2 weeks to really...
Well, I think we'll have a sense of at least what our projections are to at least have some information rather than shooting in the dark.
I noticed Karen or Russ noticed your hand up, so I'm just trying to take things in order.
Can I just ask a
Yes.
technical question? How do you typically decide where the METCO student will be placed? Is it determined by, where another teacher would be added, or is it, to Center, to Blueberry, to, how do you figure that out?
It's been based on numbers.
Okay.
Class size.
In the past.
Okay,
class size,
so it
yeah.
already is figured out that way. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we've done in the past.
Okay, got it.
So I'm just trying, who had their hand up first?
Thank you.
Sorry, this got out of Russ and Stephanie.
I do think ultimately we have to, I see it as, you want them to be, I see it as you want them to be in different schools, and I think when we get our numbers up and hopefully grow the program in a way that is beneficial to everybody, but our numbers are down, so it does seem like that, maybe that's spattering, but I think the objective would be to, my thinking is not concentrate on one school, but then ultimately, after that, it does come down to numbers. You're not gonna, make it so you have to add another teacher when you could put that one child at another school and not have to add
Right.
another teacher. So ultimately, it will come down to that, and I don't think that's something that can be done until, the numbers are more solid. So I feel comfortable voting on a number, not necessarily based on, how many go to each school, because I don't think we're ever gonna be able to determine that until the last minute, but kind of our commitment to METCO, and then I think, I would be in favor of going with Sandy's recommendation of 5. I think, I was solid on the 4. I wouldn't want to go below what we have, but she's looking to go with that 5. I would go with that, and then over this next year, really look at that information from parents and work collaboratively, and I think advocate for this program in Western Mass and see where we're at. But I do think in terms of the transportation, we do need to do something different, and so we're gonna. And I wouldn't want to, going forward for next year, looking for all that input from parents and the surrounding schools and kind of thinking outside the box and what are our options. And transportation is a big issue, clearly. So
Yeah.
I think we do need to kind of hit that hard and hear where parents are at and what our options are, but really thinking all sorts of different avenues in terms of addressing that.
Okay. Got Russ next.
So, I didn't realize the numbers had gone up that far at kindergarten, but I think I would be more, I don't know that the one kid in METCO, unless we're going to, not accept any METCO kids, I'm not sure that's going to be the tipping point. We probably need to look at staffing in the spring to see if we do need to add staff, because I'd rather do that. Sometimes we've waited right until the end and there's a lot of budget reasons for that, but it sounds like maybe this time we don't wait and we have to add somebody at the elementary level, a teacher. But I think I'd be more, if it's possible, I'd rather reduce school choice and keep METCO at 5 and reduce the 4 school choice slots potentially, or would it be at 4 or 5? I can't
Did we
remember.
vote on that last meeting?
We did.
We did.
We did.
Oh, we
four.
did 4.
I
Yeah.
think the
Grade 2 and grade 3.
And it's already out.
Application is out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's too bad.
We're very efficient. We like to get them.
Yeah.
Too efficient.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's not your fault. It's too bad we didn't vote on both last
I
meeting.
did want
probably,
them both
but-
together. I forgot
What's
that
the
we
deadline
voted
for the
it.
METCO?
It's like April.
1.
First week in April.
Yes.
Yeah.
April 1.
So that's,
Well,
sorry.
let me- yeah,
Russ
let me
finish and then
finish.
Sue's got her hand up and then I can go
So
to
the-
Jess. Sorry, that's okay.
So the 4 versus 5, I think realistically, the only thing that would make a difference is if we went from 4 to nothing, probably, that might help. But the 4 to 5, I don't know if that's really, if we want this program to go forward and kind of get closer to the 60 number, we'd have to get back to 5 to do that. And I think there is definitely a benefit to the program. I kind of wonder what Springfield really thinks to this program, because I wonder how does this really help them? It's,
You don't want to know.
yeah, the same thing with school choice. So the program definitely looks good from this side. I'm just not sure the other side how it works.
We're
for
not
them, but-
opposed to the program, Russ, but again, it is small potatoes for them, and especially this year with the influx of students from PR, so.
I would think it's more adding school choice and METCO together, then it becomes a big problem for them. That's the thing. But that said, it's a worthy program for Long Meadow, definitely, and for the kids
For the
involved.
students who come.
So,
Well, and for our students.
Yeah.
Yes.
well, that's Long Meadow.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by Long Meadow. It's-
So,
If we have to get, add a teacher somewhere, and then all of a sudden we have very low class sizes somewhere, then even later in the year, I think if we let Springfield know, and they have a huge waiting list, so you could consider something.
So I guess the bottom.
Closer to the end of the school year, if you did have to provide them with a teacher.
So do you think the 4 versus 5 is going to make a difference? If you really think we should go to 4, then certainly I'll think about that.
As long as it's understood that we'll have to be strategic about where we place the students. And though it would be desirable to have them equally represented, although that creates a transportation problem for us, as long as we have that flexibility to assign them in ways that don't tip us towards having to add a classroom.
I think that's really up to you, personally.
where they go?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm going to put my name on the list, but Jess, you're in front of me.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I guess I agree with everyone who wants to increase the program. I think I have a proposal, but my only concern outside of what we've already talked about would be, and I think you touched on it, the transition that we're going through right now. So with the, moving from what we've been doing recently to the 01109 zip code, I think we just changed the bus around a little bit. So I guess I hesitate only because we have a lot of moving parts right now to make any changes. But I think, again, the question was, will one make that much of a difference in the equation, or two? I think just from a finance sub perspective, we really felt like the numbers were tight when we were looking at the numbers, and we've already kind of we haven't closed out the budget, but we more or less have voted on it. It's going to select board, it's gone to select board. So I feel like, but again, I know that we wanted to have this discussion earlier and just things happened, we couldn't. I guess I'm just concerned about the budget impact if there was, if it was to change. And then I'm also just concerned again about the changes that, we have on the table already that are going to happen next year. So I guess the only compromise I was going to propose would be, and again, I think it has to go back to administration, and you guys have to give us a recommendation, because your initial recommendation was 4, and I think, 5 is not a big change, but I really need your, for me to make my vote, I think I need your advice, and I think you're trying to give it. But I guess my compromise was, what if we have a second motion that commits to increasing the program, or to studying the possibility of increasing the program, and begin that study right away, and just kind of look at the things since it's last minute right now, and then we'd be able to plan the budget accordingly next year for, for increasing it 2 slots or more. That would be my only proposed compromise here, since it's kind of last minute. And so anyhow, those were my thoughts. I wanted to give the committee some time to talk and administration time to weigh in, but.
That's just, I was just going to say about the timing. I'm looking at all the factors with timing, and it's so complicated because we're talking about budget, and we have to know how this is going to play out in terms of money, and that comes early. But then you talk about kindergarten enrollment, and that's really late. And so we have and then we have the April deadline for the METCO applications. So this is not for discussion now, but it certainly is a complicated cycle, and it makes sense that we keep getting stuck here every single year. It's frustrating, but it's making sense as to why. So I do think we need to come up with a way of tracking it throughout the year and coming up with a plan. That was my only.
Okay, Karen.
Is there a possibility to do what Sue suggested, which is maybe keep it at 4 now, and then, like they said, there's such a long waiting list of applications, and then at some point, once we see the final numbers of kindergarten enrollment, come back and visit and see if we could add 2 more? Is that something that's possible?
Awesome question. Can I have one of the administrators answer that before we take any more input from the committee? I think I said enough.
How do you like that
Sorry, Sue, not to
proposal?
put you on the spot.
Well, that just brings us up 1. If they do 4,
Yeah.
we have 3 graduating, so we'll be up 1, which,
Yeah, so in the past, if we called the parent and they said, I changed my mind, or we're moving, or whatever, we would call and get another student's name, right?
Yeah.
So they have let us do that in the past. I don't have a guarantee on that. I'd want to make sure we could do that with Springfield if we decided in mid-May that, heck, we have we're opening a new class and we can take X amount more students, then.
So, yeah, we don't know.
I would have to I need to call the new.
You can't answer
'Cause
that
the
question
lottery.
until you
Yeah.
do some research.
The lottery has a waiting list. I don't know how long they'll keep it open, but I don't know why they wouldn't.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, do you have a follow-up on that, or did that sort of?
No, that would answer I guess that would be my compromise suggestion, would
Yeah.
be that we do what we've already budgeted for, what the administration has already suggested, and then see if maybe we could go that route and add more, if we have more room in the classroom.
So
And
it
if
sounds
it's
like we need some
So I
time to be able to
get
answer
that answer.
Right.
And you can, the 28th is before April 1st. So.
Okay. Russ, you had your hand up, and then I see Stephanie.
Yeah, so based on what you're saying, in knowing the numbers the way they were before at the elementary, we probably have to add a staff member anyway. It's going to be unlikely we're going to get to the end of this year and not have to, because we were pretty close without knowing about this increase. So I think unless like I said before, unless we're just going to say no METCO kids, I don't see how this 4 or 5, whatever we decide, is going to make a difference.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, really, these kids just started to come through here, so.
Yeah, I think-
haven't been
yeah. No, no,
notified. I didn't know
that's-
you haven't been notified.
No,
That's
no,
not
no, no,
accurate.
that's not-
They are coming through,
What I'm saying
Monday
is-
was a big day for us.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to lay blame.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, it is what it is. We're getting more kids. So that puts us into a situation where, because we were so close at the elementary back when we were looking at before that, it probably means we need to hire another staff member, which will be unrelated to METCO, really. I think
It's very possible that we're at that we're getting to that tipping point at center.
yeah, I mean, knowing in the past, we always get those ones at the very beginning of the school year, and so I think this 4 versus 5 is probably not going to make a difference. We probably have to add staffing anyway. But, and I'm very careful about that, but in this particular case.
Right, you're saying that. Me too.
All right, Russ.
It's the tipping point, right?
What's that?
When you're considering bringing new staff in, it's really one student sometimes that is the tipping point, so.
Yeah, but it sounds like we're way above that anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't have the actual numbers, I was just going by visuals.
If we're approaching that, I don't know, I want to say that we're approaching that. I want to be careful about saying that we're already in that zone where
Yeah.
we're going to have to add a staff, and
Right.
we're going to have to start watching it very carefully. And at this stage of the year, it's early to be watching it, admittedly, so.
But we always have the choice of saying, let's say that one kid, it pushes a class size, I don't know what our minimum is going to be, but let's say 18, and now one school is going to have 19. We're going to keep it at 19. So it's, I don't know. I'm fine with 4, I'm fine with 5. I don't think we should go below 4.
And the motion is for 5.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
I believe this is why some of the schools do add the kids in the older grades, because they have a sense of the enrollment of the older grades. But I do find there are great benefits to having them in kindergarten, and just, fair and square. You fill out the application, and your name gets picked and you get placed. But that's why we will encounter this every single year. So it's interesting to think about whether they would allow us to pull off the lottery if we're looking to grow this, but we're worried about enrollment numbers. But I do think there's the other side of it, is that, you can have that tipping point in first grade with an influx and all of a sudden not know. So that tipping point, there is a point where you're committed to the program, and then you have to deal with how that rolls out later in enrollment, and that's not to discount the impact of that. And that's why I really feel like we're in a position where we have to advocate for this program and funding, and get us back on the radar with Boston, and helping out those in Eastern Mass too, because there is a cost to it. You can't deny that. So,
Right.
yeah, that's the reality of it. So. But for kindergarten, if you're, I think that I would go either way with a compromise of doing 4 and then finding out. But I think the reality is you could encounter that in first grade and second grade as well. So, and Russ, being the conservative one here, saying he's willing to go with 5, I'm like,
Just 'cause I'm
all on board.
I don't know where we're at right now.
I think I'm somehow more conservative than Russ, because he's going, I think I could push the envelope, and I'm going, wait a second, this is too much. Beth, I want to check in with you, because I haven't done that. Marty reminded me. How are you doing? Do you want to speak?
No, I'm fine.
You're
I've been
good.
listening to all the
Listening,
conversation,
okay.
following
Okay.
it. I think I'm good with 4. I hear everyone's point. I could go either way, but I feel like where we are in the process, with the recommendation on the table for 4 and the budget has already been analyzed, I'm comfortable with that. I am a huge advocate of the program, but like everyone said, so many moving parts, transportation, and we are so early in the year. And I know historically we do have those kindergarten numbers tend to really change dramatically in August and even the first week of September. So just a lot of things to consider. But where we are right now, I feel comfortable with 4 because the budget has already been kind of assessed for this year, but something to definitely keep our eye on moving forward for growth.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. So did you have your hand
I
up,
did
or were you
not,
just
no.
moving?
No, I
Okay.
was just-
Stephanie.
Can we maybe change the motion to to accepting 4, and then if we're able to, if it wouldn't change, you don't want to do that? No?
No, I'd like to vote on 5.
You want?
So before we vote, I was going to pose this question to administration, that maybe you can answer. Would you rather us vote on something now and then come back and give you some time to do some research and come back, would that be a better solution than us choosing 4 or 5 right now? Would you like a little bit more time?
I think you guys may feel differently. I don't know that we're going to have any more clarity by March 28th, because,
Okay.
the factors that are on the table now are the factors that are going to be in front of you on
Right.
the 28th. I suppose the only question we would have some clarity on, perhaps, would be whether or not we could, at a later date, let's say May or June even, go back to METCO and say, we'd like to take one more from the waiting list. So with that, I suppose, we would have an answer to that question. That was the question that Karen had asked earlier. So, and so conceivably, you could wait till the 28th. If you feel like that's a critical piece of information, you could wait till the 28th.
So I guess my question is if that would be helpful in making, would you rather us vote now, or would you rather us wait till you gather some more information on that, at least,
Well,
so we know what's...
I think that we need to sort of decide whether we're going to vote as a committee.
Well, I get that. I just wanted their recommendation on what would be better, I guess, to gather that information first. Would that help you with the recommendation? Because I think...
I haven't been on finance sub. Have you guys looked at enrollment really pretty? So, who's the finance person? Yes. I don't know where you're at. Like legit. I really just said that because I'm seeing little kids walking by my office or coming in my office, and it seems like a whole bunch of them. Really cute ones. Still, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Russ?
So the bottom line is you'd like 4.
Sandy
Ideally.
wants 5.
Ross, I'm kind of with you. I don't
Yeah,
know that one more is going to
person.
make a difference.
Yeah.
I think the watch we have is center school that may
Yeah.
need a 4th kindergarten section. How that then translates on student placement. I mean,
Yeah.
you usually don't notify students where they're going to be until late spring
Right.
in terms
Correct.
of next, the placement for kindergarten. So, I mean,
So it doesn't
I
really
think
matter.
just to take care of the issue, let's just vote it. So we don't have to revisit this.
Thank you, Tom. You answered my question.
You're
See,
kinda-
there was an
you're
answer
kinda
to that
saying what I was
question. What would
hoping
you
you would.
rather? Melanie, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I don't really understand why we would do this in haste, other than that it feels like something that's good to do, to add someone on, given that we may have more information in the spring, and it may likely be an option that we can pull someone off the wait list. I mean, you look at, I just have concerns when we have set the budget, when we have the concerns about transportation, we have the concerns about class size, and it seems like there's a willingness to kind of just say, well, let's just add another one. And we talked about being more thoughtful on how we plan and figure these things out. I don't understand why we wouldn't wait until spring when you have exact numbers on kindergarten, and whether or not one will make a difference. It probably won't. But if we have that option to pick one up on the wait list, I don't understand why we would come to in a 15-minute time, given all the information that has been provided, that we would vote on 5. But maybe someone else feels differently.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Sure. Yep, and then I have Stephanie next. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I know I came in the middle of the METCO presentation, but I know the motion reads as the recommendation from administration, but correct me if I'm wrong, this was vetted by Finance Sub?
Yes.
The 4 was vetted by Finance Sub.
The motion-
Okay, so my only
motion's
comment
fine.
would be that,
Oh, can you
I'd like to try-
Sorry, let me just clarify, because
No.
Marty helped me out. So the motion is for 5, the 4 was vetted at Finance Sub, which was the
Okay, so
original
in
on our
terms of-
annotated agenda.
which was the original motion by the administration, correct?
I don't think.
The original motion
Yes.
for the administration to the agenda was for 4, it was
Yes.
vetted at Finance Sub for 4, so my only comment to that is, I respect work that my fellow colleagues here do in subcommittees. I feel like that's why we have subcommittees, so I put a lot of stake in that, and I respect all the groundwork that gets done when we bring these motions forward, so that's just a follow-up point as far as the 4 goes.
So just to clarify, though, Russ made the motion of 5.
I'm overruling myself.
Russ, aren't you on finance sub?
Yes, he's 50% of it, and I'm the other 50.
I knew the enrollment when we looked at it wasn't as bad as it is now, but I still, I don't think one kid matters. So.
No, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm just.
But yes, I totally.
I put a lot of stake in what you guys do.
Remember the politicians, the flipping and flopping? That's me, apparently.
So, I think to clarify, just to go back to, it sounded like administration is now recommending that they don't care, they want us to vote. Not that they don't care. Let me clarify. That 4 or 5 is not going to be a dramatic difference. I think, so I hear that from you guys. I guess I have one more follow-up question, though. How many other bubble classes do we have in terms of other grade levels? Again, not that one student is going to change the kindergarten, but I know we have bubble classes in other grades. So
Probably 4th grade at Blueberry.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably 2 more sections, maybe 3. Again, I mean, I think just to Melanie's question, even by May or June, our kindergarten enrollment numbers might not be
clear.
specific enough where it'll give you
Right.
enough information to sway your decision. We get students registering throughout the summer, even if they're on our, say, list of known, eligible students.
Yep.
Which adds more
yeah.
unpredictability.
So we might not even have clarity for you to change your decision or to expand the number of slots even later in the spring.
It'd be helpful to look at, these are your numbers.
Okay.
These are the slides from the budget presentation, if it's helpful at all. That's center. The K is obviously not filled in.
Beth, I know you can't see, but if, I think, Marty, your summary was we had, or how many bubble classes did we
There were
potentially?
2 specifically that we were watching, and then I'd say 3 now if you add on the center school kindergarten for next year.
Can I say
Yes.
something? I think, and what I'm hearing is there may be one school with a tipping class, but then the chances of you having all 3 schools in that same predicament is pretty next to nothing. So if you have one child who's going to tip it, and it's a child at a METCO, you would put them at one of the other 2 schools. So you're not really going to have one METCO child who's going to tip it. You're just going to bring them to another school because we offered that flexibility, and you don't decide what schools they go to. So for me, 4 or 5, I know transportation has to be fixed anyway, so as it stands right now, that's going to need to be addressed going forward. So I don't think there's any, from what I'm hearing, there's no difference between 4 and 5. Except 5 growth program.
4 does too, actually.
A little bit, because we have 3 going, right?
Correct.
So,
Well, that's why.
Move the question.
Hold on, Jess is, yeah, I don't know, are you doing that? Because, so Jess, you want
Doing
to
what?
speak?
I thought
and
they
then-
said move the question. I was.
Well, I think they can, but they can't move. So are you moving it? But
No, let
That's why I
Jess
feel
talk.
like we have a no-brainer situation where we have been spending all this time talking about what an important program it is, yet, we're talking about one kid, and, this one kid is symbolic to our commitment to growing the program, and administration is telling us that we can accommodate this child. I can't see any argument why we wouldn't vote to accommodate this one child, and I would like to move the question.
Okay, there it is. So, do we need a second for move the question?
I don't have my Robert's rules, but
Yeah,
I
let's
think
just
we,
vote.
Okay, all right.
let's
So-
just
No
reel
worries.
it in.
Okay, if there's no one opposed to voting, we will do a roll call vote, beginning with Karen. All those in favor of adding 5, or of approving 5 seats to the METCO program for the 2018-19 school year in kindergarten?
Karen Moore and I.
Jess Hutchins, aye.
Melanie Rothstein, aye.
Michelle Beth, sorry, you're next.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Bear and I.
Michelle Grodzki, aye.
Russ Dupre, aye.
Stephanie Jasmine, aye.
Okay, that went way over the time allotment. And if anyone ever doubted that Russ and I violate open meeting law, I had no idea that was going to happen because I would have beat him up before we got in here. That was my time that I had. Okay, we got to move on to, we are taping off the athletic fee discussion because we're going to speak about it at the next meeting.
Michelle, I'm going to the bathroom.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else needs.
Yep, no problem. We're going to move on to administrative reports.
Can I just say one thing about athletic fee, just because it's on there? Not for
It's not on there.
Oh, it was
It's
taken
not.
off.
Yeah,
It's
it
on
wasn't, yeah, the posting
Okay.
wasn't completely.
Okay, Tom's going, I just asked him to disseminate information that he had given to me that was super helpful and will be for that discussion, so
Okay,
that was it.
okay.
I'm sorry, I just have to say thank you to all of you all. I'm gonna leave, but I want to say thank you.
Sandy, can you dance?
Really, you know I can. I won't today, but we have a date to do just that. I'll teach you all the line dances. All the line dances. No, but you are appreciated, and thank you for what you went to the ladies' room, but thank you for offering, because I'm going to put that forward. But I do want to concentrate on Long Meadow, but I want them to join
Right,
in
no,
as well.
absolutely.
But this
Yeah.
is it.
All right,
This is
thank you.
Thank
So you just
you.
make me want to keep going on. I don't have to retire. Is it right? Someone told me I had to retire at 72. I says, who said that?
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Well, that's what I said. I said, I don't know who said that. 70 and loving it.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we will move on to the administrative reports. Marty?
No written report, just two quick things. Tonight, the Friends and Family Concert at Symphony Hall, 7 o'clock, grades 5 to 12, in a combined choral concert, so looking forward to that. It's a great event every couple of years. The music teachers pull it off, and it's quite an endeavor and very impressive, so looking forward to that tonight. The students at Glenbrook, Williams, and the high school participated in the national sort of walkout today, and I would say that it went off as expected. It was orderly, it was respectful. The students were in and out on time, but more importantly, they observed some moments of silence at all three schools, the students who chose to walk out. I happened to witness the high school event. They had a well-organized roster of speakers with their megaphone, and I want to thank the administration at each of the three schools for their leadership and for handling it very thoughtfully and effectively. And also, I believe they were thoughtful of the students who chose not to participate, because I'd be hesitant to put out numbers. There's quite a few students at all three schools, but there's quite a few students who chose not to participate, and I think we tried to be respectful of all student voices there. The Long Meadow Police Department helped us pull it off and helped with some logistical support. And it was interesting that there was about 15 or 20 community members that assembled on Grassy Gutter in show of support of our students. So that was nice to see as well. So, as we said before, great lesson in civic involvement, and I think we captured it as a teachable moment for all, and appreciate the school committee's support and advice and encouragement as we kind of walk through what was frankly a delicate issue, but ultimately one that I think was very meaningful and hopefully memorable for all the kids involved. So.
And I want to add on to that and say thank you. I did send an email, but I just wanted to reiterate my gratitude. I know that Principal Landers, Principal Guile, and Principal Allen put so much work and thought into how to do it right, how to do it safely. So many emails went out. So a lot of people, I don't know if everyone saw all the behind the scenes work, but talk about commitment to civic involvement and the democratic process, and it's a really special moment for the Long Meadow Public Schools, and I have a lot of gratitude that went off without a hitch, and very glad about it.
We were
meaningful.
Pleased. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And to the whole administrative team, because I know it was a huge group effort, I think, from everyone to bring this many teachable moments forward, like you said.
And the staff were great. I think they understood their role as educators, and
Yep.
that they were sort of neither encouraging nor discouraging, but their job was to kind of make sure that it went off safely and respectfully and orderly. So it was a nice job.
Yeah, and giving the students a platform for self-expression in a safe way.
Yep.
Peaceful, yep. Okay. that all from?
And that's it, just those two things, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, and yep.
I just want to announce one thing. I believe a new facilities director has been hired.
Okay.
I apologize, I don't have his name. So I believe he's scheduled to start March 26th. So
Okay.
I'll make arrangements for him to come to introduce to the
Be great.
committee.
Thank you.
You can introduce him to me.
Great
Yes,
news.
I will.
Can you just repeat what that was? I didn't.
Oh, we have a new facilities director, officially.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and Tom mentioned that he'll be coming to meet us on, maybe at our next meeting, March 28th.
And Jess specifically.
And Jess, yes, exactly, that was the humor behind it. Okay, any other, so we do not have a student representative report, but I will piggyback on Marty in saying, at the elementary level, tomorrow you should expect to see a lot of purple. Principals and students have decided to wear purple as a way to support and raise funds for a third grade Blueberry Hills classmate who is about to undergo surgery on a grade 3 cancerous brain tumor. Her favorite color is purple, and again, you'll see our students express themselves in an incredibly meaningful way. Thank you to Principal Hutton, Principal Nelson, Principal Bastian for organizing and facilitating this for our community, for our students, our Blueberry Hill family, and most importantly, our young and courageous student. Donations are being accepted at our elementary schools tomorrow, as well as online through a GoFundMe page. If anyone is interested in the donation address and would like to make a donation, just reach out to, you can email me or anyone on the committee or any of the elementary principals, and we'll forward you the link to the fundraising page. So there's so many wonderful things to share today. Also, I have some housekeeping. So one thing, I'd like to update our system of handling official correspondence. I have a suggestion that might help all of us. I do think our website already reads that all official correspondence should be sent to the school committee email address, which is schoolcommittee@longmeadow.k12.ma.us. Is that correct? And it says all official correspondence? Okay. I was going to say that if a request comes through to anyone's individual email, check the email and address at the top, and you'll see whether or not it says school committee, or if it has all of our names separately. If anyone's individual email or a group of our individual emails, then just forward it directly to the school committee email address, and from there it'll make correspondence easier. Diane gets those, and then it's automatically in her system for official correspondence. I do want to revisit the correspondence designee. I think we had already a liaison or a designee, which was Jess, but with the legal, there were a lot of legal questions that were posed, and that ultimately ended up in my kind of answering a lot of them because we needed advice from counsel, and that involved my reaching out to her. So I guess I want to suggest that from right now, we revisit that, and the correspondence designee can respond to all emails sent to the school committee address on behalf of the committee and address any requests within those emails at the next full school committee meeting. If there was any sort of a legal question involved before they could respond, then that designee could reach out to the chair, and the chair could either authorize that designee to reach out to council, or the chair could gather the legal information. I know this is confusing, but basically, I don't know who our designee is. I want to revisit if Jess, you're still interested in being the
Are we talking about communication?
Well,
because that wasn't
okay.
That's not the history of the communication person. The emails.
Well, I think
so. That would be a whole new.
She's saying, do you want to expand that role, I think.
I think I am. As the chair, and only because the chair has so many others. I'm not saying it has to be you.
I don't want it.
Listen, the issue is that, and I'm not
understand.
complaining, but there's a lot of responsibilities that the chair has, and if the chair is doing correspondence and those, then it's hard to do the other duties, and those are equally as important. So my suggestion would be, and you never know, we may never get 1,000 emails in a short period of time again, but I think let's set ourselves up for success by potentially expanding the communications.
I mean, I hesitate well, I hesitate because I didn't know we were going to discuss this today.
It's a suggestion, it's a housekeeping item.
But historically, it's always been the chair and the vice chair that respond, and
Yeah.
this was, not a typical, this was an atypical sort of situation, so maybe we can talk about it a little bit more at some point?
We can, I just, I would love to, if somebody else is willing to take on that role, I'd love to do it now so I can commit more of my time to the other roles of chair, because right now it's still me. And I think it's been really hard, not complaining, but
I understand what
there's
you're
only so much time that a chair has, and so
Yeah.
if some of this is removed from the responsibilities, that it's somehow, we don't know what the next 2 weeks will hold, so that would be my point. And again, it's housekeeping. If the committee needs more time to think about this, I totally understand it as a suggestion. So Stephanie?
I will just say, I would need to think about it and then figure out how that would work, because what happened, and this is an atypical situation, but I think this is the one we're kind of trying to figure out, is that the chair and vice chair have so much information that we did not, just from a perspective from, my side, I'll speak for myself, had so much more information that I would not have felt comfortable and didn't feel comfortable answering anything, because I didn't know where we were at, because in this particular situation, there were weeks when all of the dialogue was happening between, the chair and vice chair. So take that example and, say I was assigned to answer the emails, I could have just answered in a totally, inaccurate way with information that was, not accurate. So that's the part I don't know how we would navigate around. And so just in trying to think about what that would look like, because I understand, that the situation as it, no one can answer all of those emails and it's very difficult. So trying to figure out how we figure out that role, but also knowing that in situations like that, we don't have all the information because of open meeting law.
So I totally hear you. I think what I can say is the only thing that I would report, this would be a communication from the committee on behalf of the committee. So if it wasn't information that the whole committee already had, then it wasn't going to come out in an email. Do you know what I mean? So my response would have been where the committee stood at the time. And it always has to, if you're responding on behalf of the committee, it has to represent the whole committee. So the chair and vice chair couldn't really represent the whole committee in a way without the committee being aware of, without a decision that was made in an open meeting.
I think there were just questions that, like legal questions that I didn't have.
Right, so that would be
access to, the attorney to ask about, okay, they're asking this question, what's the, that kind of thing. And then discussion, just all around, just feeling kind of like on the sidelines just because of how things are arranged with the role of the chair and vice chair. So I don't know. Unless you compose something and then just want someone to send it out, just to kind of keep track, then that would be, I don't know.
Russ?
So it would probably make sense for the vice chair to do it. However,
You're on a roll today with me, Russ. I owe you dinner.
I'm not sure how to say this really, but you're a lot nicer than me. Actually, you're all a lot nicer than me. So
I'll agree with that.
I'm not sure I'm the best person to be responding to people. Because my response is probably,
One line.
yeah, they'd be one line.
Thanks for your email.
Not nice enough.
If you have any
So-
emotional issues, don't come to me.
Yeah. So I think it's the vice chair, probably the role of the vice chair. It could be a part of the role of the vice chair going forward. But my emails are really short, and they're not. Yours are so much better, like from a, public relations point of view, definitely. So I don't know if that would be best.
I'm not going to argue with you doing it versus me. I understand what you're saying, and I think, the other alternative we have is for us to not respond, which that's never been a position that I've been comfortable with. An email that I've always gotten, that I would like to respond to, or the committee responds to in some way. So, I guess that's the other alternative here, which I'm not going to say I support. It's just an alternative. Jess? Did you have your hand up?
I did.
You can pull it down.
I don't have a problem, with helping with responses at all, with email responses.
Just so we're clear, I wasn't saying that you needed to continue this role if we're going to change.
But if you and I can talk offline about the logistics, so we don't have to take up the whole school committee and administrators' time to do it, I think the three of us could work that out together offline, in terms of.
You'd have to do that in a meeting.
Yeah,
We have to do it at a meeting?
We have to designate someone.
Okay.
Today. Or
I mean, is it
at
a
future
situation
date.
where you could legally, could you say, forward to me, like you go through all the emails, you forward to me the ones you want me to respond to? I would feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with the blanket, I'm responding to all the emails.
And it's not me per se, but I don't think that really helps the chair.
Okay.
The position of the chair, because I
Okay.
think there's just too much. And again, this situation may never happen, but I'm just trying to, and again, I've only got, so much time left, but I think that the chair's role needs a liaison for the communication. At
For the
least
email.
during-
For the email.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Stephanie?
I think in whether you do it on the next committee going forward or start it now, but I think it needs to be the vice chair because, press releases, all of those press inquiries and all that, we have policy that has to go through the chair, and I think it needs to go to the vice chair, and it's just, we don't have the information that you have during these. I think it really just, and I think it just does.
I'm not going to argue with it being Russ.
But I think it's between the two of you because he can also say, are you okay with this going out? Or you can go back and
We can
forth, whereas a
communicate
committee
easier.
member, it's a different situation and we're just not privy to the information you have at all times.
So I'll train Russ on being a little nicer. I'll keep a leash on him. Is there anyone else that wants?
This meeting's going so well for me.
Karen.
I'm the conservative mean
I
person.
just want to echo, I actually do think it's a good responsibility for the vice. No offense, Russ.
I planned on doing this.
It is what it is. He's not going to be rude. It may be, and that's, whoever we vote in as the vice chair, you may get a really emotional email or you may get a really curt email. And it is what it is. I think that.
And you can revisit this when the committee is reorganized. Then, you can all choose a new delegate.
And add a
That point would
stipend
be
for the chair and vice chair.
It's all in your hands. All right, so I'm hearing consensus, if there's any other, but sounds like Russ is a good liaison for this. Everyone else.
Sorry, Russ. Way to go.
So I'm responding to the
Beth,
group
do you
emails.
do you have anything you want to add? Because I can't see your hand.
Good luck to all
Can
of
we
you.
just hurry up and vote, please?
We're not even voting. I just wanted to.
This is a great way for me to exit because I have to get back to work.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go along with consensus and I'm gonna say, hey, great job, Russ, and I'm looking forward to getting in touch with your feelings and
Along with that was
Do
great.
we need to vote on this? I don't think so.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Okay, great. Thanks, Beth. Have a good rest of the day. Hope you ate some lunch.
you guys have a good day.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, Beth.
Are we going to need to pay for a therapist?
Can you hang on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have any feelings to worry
Okay.
about.
All right, that was perfect. We'll move on. Make sure I covered it. Also, just, as a side note, anyone who would like to respond individually to correspondence you've received, you can do so at any time. Just make sure you clarify that it's your own response, not necessarily that of the committee. So,
Can I clarify?
Absolutely.
So if we get one to the whole school committee, I have not been responding because I was assuming
Yep,
that if
that-
I get something individually, I do respond individually.
Yep.
Is that proper order? I mean, is that?
I think if you would
Anyone
like to
can
respond to, we have the policy where you don't speak to the press, where the chair and the vice chair speak to the press. I don't believe we have policy that says that you can't respond to group emails to us or whatever. I think it's really just make sure that it's, that you clarify that it's your own opinion.
Okay.
Or you could say the committee, you can respond and say the committee decided at our last meeting and voted, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
right.
just because I know there were a lot of questions, and I understand so many of the correspondence that's come in had legal questions, so, we had to do that, but.
Thank you.
Russ has access, or the vice chair would have access to the council without even having to go through me. Jess?
I'm glad Karen asked that question because, and thank you, Michelle, for your response. I think the school committee nobody should feel afraid of responding. It's okay. It's okay to respond to people's inquiries, and, we might not all have the same opinions, but, it's still okay to send an email response.
Absolutely.
And speak, speak your own
Yep.
truth. And that's representing yourself. Michelle speaks on behalf of the committee, but when we get emails that are directed to all of us, this has been a strange year in terms of communication. Not strange, but atypical year in terms of communication. So I don't want the new members to feel sort of gun-shy about responding. So I'm glad you brought that up, Karen.
It's optional, I guess. Know that there will be a response coming from somebody, so there won't be an unresponsive email, and it's always your option. Do you have a
Yeah,
question?
no, I was going to say, I do think it's best to go with the vice chair for the reasons that Stephanie said. There's just so much that we're not privy to. But I also think at times where what just recently happened, that you could also ask for help, just like I did when it came to minutes and so forth. There does get to a boiling point when that kind of stuff is going on. So I would think you could still reach out and ask for help at times like these, rather than assigning someone else.
So that would just, the only thing is I did that in a meeting, so that, like, we made sure that we had somebody, it would have to go to meetings, that's why I'm doing it now. But absolutely, ask for help, and then ask the chair to put it on the agenda, or somehow to take care of it in a meeting, so that we designate somebody in open session.
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
you got
Yep.
hit with is
Yep.
just
No,
unimaginable.
it's just housekeeping. At this point, I think it'll make us more efficient, and in terms of the correspondence, I think that'll help Diane, because I think it's the documenting of everything is cumbersome. Okay, so one more housekeeping item on 3.6 and 3.7. The committee decided to hire a mentor. A few suggestions have already been received. Our attorney has recommended that the committee appoint one member to review potential mentors and coaches and make a recommendation to the committee. This way, the advance work, including contacting the potential mentors, coaches regarding availability, cost, and comfort level with the desired focus of the mentorship, can be determined, and recommendation can then be brought forward to the committee. So I am looking for a volunteer liaison to anyone who would be interested in that.
Not me.
No, you jumped ahead on my liaison. I needed a volunteer. So anyhow, is there anyone that would be interested? And we don't have Beth on the phone now, but in
I nominate
being that
Beth.
liaison.
What's the responsibility?
Yeah, what is the
So really, there will be a list generated of suggested potential mentors or coaches, and this liaison would, kind of review the mentors and the names, and they could, contact for references or anything, availability, cost associated with, and what type of specialty that coach may have. The list comes from, our attorney has already gathered some names for us. I know Stephanie had a suggestion from someone already, of someone that came from Principal Hutton. So this person would kind of do the research behind it and then bring forward their recommendation to the committee. And a lot of factors could be considered in terms of making a recommendation. So does that clarify what the job title would entail?
And does it have to be just one person?
Yeah,
Or could, like, more than one person do it?
So if it's more than one, it has to be a subcommittee.
Yes.
And that gets even more complicated and
Okay.
might be more time consuming, and so that's the purpose of having just the one, so that it's not a subcommittee.
What are the
Jess?
complications, like, for example, let's say Karen and I decided to do it together, what would be the I think it's too big a job for one person right now.
So if you wanted to,
For a
it
lot
would
of
have to be a
reasons.
subcommittee.
So how complicated would it be to?
Post meetings.
To-
That's
Okay.
you have to do it just like a
So-
regular.
Posting meetings.
Yeah, you'd have the 48 hours in advance, you'd have to take minutes. Russ?
So the attorney has a list of potential people, and Marty probably might have a list too, but I think the person just needs to go through the list with the attorney and say, well, what are the person's skills and qualifications? What do you think would be best? You talk to Marty about it, make sure that, it's not somebody that I'd prefer. Like, I know one person on that list, so I'd rather not use that person. I think it should be somebody that, none of us have connection with, Marty doesn't have connection with. It really should just be a neutral mentor that comes in.
Yeah.
So I would say the person I know on that list should probably be out. And then, other than that, I think it's just the person working with the attorney and then talking to Marty to make sure the person works for, is a good fit for both, sides.
Yeah, I mean, if I were a betting girl, I don't think this would be a huge amount of time in
Yeah.
terms of the commitment level. But Stephanie?
So that person that Donna had talked to me about isn't so much a mentor, so are we going to talk about, but an awesome asset, I think, I believe, for everybody, but.
Well, we can't get into that, though.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out if she's considering that a mentor, or is
I
that
think-
on the mentor, or is that, I don't know.
Well, she just
could
gave
be
us
reviewed.
a list of people she knew.
There's a
It could be more
formal,
people.
right, but the purpose of, whoever it would be, would know what the goals were and what their purpose would be, and if this person is a good fit, and that would be
Yeah.
part of the vetting process, I think, would be whether or not this person could serve and perform the duties that, are the,
What you're looking- so
the
is there-
goals. If they could reach our goals, then,
That's how you decide what a mentor is, like, based on your goals, what you consider a mentor, is this like this pot of mentors that you're, I don't really know how this works.
There's an MASS program, mentor program, where these
Okay.
names came from, and they were, kind of fine-tuned, because I'm sure there's a broad list, fine-tuned, and then, there's, I don't know, there's only like not even half a dozen, I think there's 5 names, and then you're 6.
Yeah.
And again, I think whether it's a title in a formal part of the MASS program or not, if the goals that we have fit their, capacity or capabilities, then I think that person could serve as a mentor.
And then it obviously comes back to us to.
Yeah, it's still a recommendation, and that person would be able to explain, how they formulated that recommendation. I'm sure that all the information that they use could be uploaded to the packet.
Okay.
So you'd have the research that they did. It's just really a way to make this simpler for the committee, because otherwise we're going to spend a lot of time at the committee level talking about it. Talking about who to choose, and that wouldn't be time spent in a positive, necessarily on the.
I hear you.
So, anyhow, it was not necessarily a vote. It was if we want to do this, we just have to have a liaison or a designee. So, is there anyone who is interested in taking on any more work at the moment? Is that a hand? It's a question.
I would be willing to do it, and I would not be adverse to doing it as a subcommittee, though, either.
And I will do it with Karen as a subcommittee.
Anyone else have
So,
thoughts on that?
either way, I'm happy.
And either way, I'm fine too.
Okay.
I just think-
my suggestion would be, I think, knowing how complicated posting and minutes, and if you have a last-minute change to the schedule, you have to wait another 48 hours to be able to have a meeting. I think that's just it just handcuffs you in so many ways to be able to move forward. So
Okay, so what about the possibility of me taking it on, and then if it seems like it's just so overwhelming that I can
absolutely.
say,
This
like,
is not
let's
a
do this.
permanent, this is,
All right,
this is
I'm envisioning like one
non-reversible.
phone call,
What?
What?
like one phone call, 2 phone calls. That's
I don't
it.
think it'll be a big time.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
I'll do it.
Thank
you,
you.
Karen.
You can bring it back to me at the next meeting and say, I'm out, we need to do it again, or tell me about it ahead of time,
Got it.
say you're out, and we'll do this all over again, or we'll
Okay.
start over. Sound
Got it.
good?
Yes.
Okay. That's it for housekeeping. We are moving on.
Michelle, are you sure you don't have any more housekeeping?
I'm not even gonna, I think I might have, but I'm done.
The next time you say housekeeping, I'm going to the bathroom.
Okay, we are moving on to subcommittee reports. We do not have a finance subcommittee report, do we? Or nope,
not.
we do not. Policy sub.
We did not meet today, we're meeting next Wednesday.
Awesome. Operations sub has not met, correct? Other reports, LPVEC, SEAL, or food services.
Seal, I think that Tom went to Seal, they had were you there at the
I did
last,
go.
they did a budget presentation.
Bless you.
And then they
Bless you.
talked about expanding the program for autism. I wasn't there, though.
Yeah, they did. I stayed for the budget presentation. Jean kind of updated Seal on the changes or the special ed changes in the budget and the impact. And then I know on the agenda was discussion of expansion or moving the autism program from Wolf Swamp to Blueberry. So I didn't stay for that part.
And I think it's not, it's two
Yeah,
programs
two
now. Yeah.
classrooms now, instead of both being housed in one building, there'll be one in each
Oh, are they
building.
moving to, one in each building,
Yes.
right? Yes, that's what was
So-
my understanding. Okay.
But I guess it was a pretty good meeting, and I
Okay.
appreciated the budget discussion piece of it from what Gina indicated.
Okay, so we will move on. Food services, we're meeting.
Food services meeting next week. The
Okay.
bid submission has been extended one day due to the storm, so they're due tomorrow. So
Okay.
I'll get the information out to the committee members, and we'll most likely meet on the 29th for presentations by the vendors.
Right.
We should get that meal charging policy on the policy subcommittee agenda.
You want it soon, yeah.
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Tom, very quickly, Marie Angelides had some information about what to do with food that's left over, and it was discussed that some of the zoos in the area will take donations for food. I don't know if you're already aware of that,
I
but
did receive the email.
Oh, okay.
We just started working with Rachel's Table on trying to donate the food that's left over to Rachel's Table for distribution to agencies in the area.
okay.
So it's something we started right before February vacation. So
Yeah, and she specifically said the zoo was
Yeah.
an option also, so.
So-
I thought that was interesting, and
Yeah, I'll pass that along.
the Food Services Committee might want to.
My guess is that the zoos will take the stuff that's not like open packages and open food, whereas Rachel's Table will require everything to be closed. So she's probably talking about the zoos will probably
Whatever
take all
Rachel's
that.
Table won't take.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
because you have a whole lot of food that you can't pass along in that way. So the different avenues to diversify would be great in terms of overage for the food.
We'll just put that on the food services.
But Marie has that information.
Okay. If you have it, forward it to Tom.
I think I have the email.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, moving on to the Sexual Abuse Awareness Framework presentation. Marty, is this you?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going
Well,
to take a
it's-
quick restroom
yeah.
break, so Russ will be running around.
So this has been in the works for some time. You'll recall back in December, in the wake of the Glenbrook incident and frankly some other national and local issues, we had made a commitment to reviewing the framework that is in place to help prevent child sexual abuse. And it's obviously a major public health issue, and oftentimes administratively we like to start with the why, and sometimes the what becomes easier, or the how becomes easier once there's some agreement on the why. And one of the statistics that's jumped off the page at us is this notion that 10% of children nationwide could be subjected to some form of sexual misconduct by an employee during the course of their experience, K-12. And so that is a figure that has really been alarming and eye-opening, and so that really establishes this as an important educational issue and frankly a public health issue. So we've talked about this idea of how can we work towards creating a culture of awareness, and there's sort of 4 elements to creating this culture, and I'd like to spend just a little bit of time on each of these and sort of establish for us what are some of the practices that we're already engaged in, what are some of the things that we're looking forward to. So to begin with professional development, and as we move into this, I want to really credit the entire administrative team and the school committee for putting this entire issue in front of the community in really bold ways. And so I went back in October, I think it was, I went with Stephanie to a national conference that was held out in Boston on this very issue, and it was a bit of a game changer for me, in terms of understanding our role and responsibility in creating that culture that tries to prevent sexual abuse and promote awareness around sexual safety. And so this is something that we have been kind of focused on administratively for some time, and have thought deeply about how we can work in each of these 4 areas to promote this culture of awareness. And so to begin in the area of professional development, this idea that it really starts with building awareness and capacity on this issue. And I would want everyone to know that the district has been engaged in this for some time, but maybe now we're being a little bit more purposeful, we're being a little bit more coordinated. Back in 2015, I think it was, there was an online training that many staff members participated in. The October 2017 event was the conference that I was fortunate enough to attend with Stephanie around preventing educator sexual misconduct. And so we began in earnest, though, with working with Jen Falcone, who happens to be with us today. Appreciate her coming out. And Jen was invited by Sue to sit with our district wellness team and talk about this issue and talk about, where there might be some opportunities for growth and where there might be some chances that we can improve, develop, foster that culture of awareness. And so that district wellness team conversation was a springboard for us, and it helped us move us forward. And I think you're aware that we have already engaged staff in an online course. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. Some of us, it takes longer than others. But the course focuses on the nature and scope of sexual abuse and what preventative actions can be taken. And so all staff are being required to participate in that online course. And then in August of 2018, Sue has lined up a presentation from the executive director at Mass Kids to come to Longmeadow and do a presentation, a training for all staff. So I think in terms of professional development, we're trying to hit this issue head on and make sure that all staff are engaged, and this would include licensed educators, paraeducators, clerical staff. Our custodians sat for the training on March 9th. Sue and Tom assisted them. And then even our coaching staff, we want to ensure that they're engaged in this training as well. So again, it's around building the capacity and building awareness. And so to that list of mandatory annual trainings, we would add sexual abuse awareness training. And we're making a commitment to that. It may not be this intensive hour-and-a-half course for people that have gone through it once, but maybe new staff would be required to do the intensive online training. But going forward, we would have we'll have to identify some type of refresher course, I think, for staff annually. So I wanted to show you the list of the mandatory annual trainings that we're engaged in, and some of this is a result of local requirements, and some of it's the result of state and federal requirements. Taken together, I think they all help to kind of build that culture of awareness and around our responsibility to keeping kids safe. The next part of this, the next element of this relates to the curriculum review. And again, I want to thank Sue for spearheading this. She's been very busy with it. Begins with, as it often does, we want to be anchored in the standards. And we pulled together a team of adjustment counselors, health teachers, administrators to take a look at our existing practices. We did a full inventory of what are we currently doing. And then the idea was to identify where are the gaps and where are the opportunities. Where can we do better? Where are there opportunities for growth? And so that group had a really robust discussion, and a lot of great ideas came out of it, and helped us identify how can we at the very least, be more aligned. It was really cool to see the middle teachers talking to the elementary teachers and talking to the high school teachers. Oh, you do that, we do that. That fits in well with what we do at the middle level. So, anytime you get the right people in the right room at the right time, we've got a lot of great people in place and a lot of good things happen. So, there are a lot of key personnel that are involved in this, and the list is there for you. So, at the elementary level, what I want to do at each level is just identify what does the foundation look like, what are the existing practices, and then I want to show you what we're thinking about in terms of moving forward. So Obviously, at the elementary level, the social emotional curriculum that's in place. The 4th and 5th grade health program has been a real boon for us. We appreciate the committee's interest and support in that. It's something that, with that life skills program, we're able to build student decision-making capacity, their assertiveness, their personal self-management. I've been really pleased to see the emails that the principals have sent home to parents kind of explaining, all right, this is what's happening next in that health program at the elementary level. So where are the recommendations? The group thought that we could be more explicit in our teaching and perhaps relying on children's literature. And there's also a circles curriculum that has a really good focus on social boundaries that we want to take a look at. That actually, it's been in place in some of our specialized programs, and there might be aspects of it that are appropriate for
younger children. It's for younger children.
For younger kids, yeah. And obviously, the parent engagement piece is important, and I'll come back to that shortly. At the middle level, again, that social-emotional framework provides a foundation. It doesn't explicitly address the issue, but it provides a foundation that we can build on. I hope that castle wheel is becoming a familiar sight to the community, that they understand that, there's sort of a comprehensive framework at the middle level around developing kids' social-emotional capacities. So what are we doing at the middle level? Health class, technology class, and advisory. There's activities that are underway that that are a good foundation for us. But going forward, what are some of the recommendations? There's a game change program that's sponsored by the Attorney General's office that we want to take a look at. Teachers talked a lot about role-playing scenarios where kids have a way to understand what aggressive behavior looks like, what boundary crossing looks like, what grooming behavior looks like. And then we're also looking at some online readiness training that is kind of in the exploration stage. I want to highlight, though, that last bullet on this slide is the introduction of the youth risk behavior survey to the middle level students. So we've been doing this at the high school for a number of years now. And it gives us some good school climate information around what risky behaviors kids are engaged in. And so we want to introduce that to our middle school students very soon. It'll happen this year. We'll notify parents, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for parents to understand what that survey will look like. But the more we can understand what the behaviors of our middle school students are, I think the better we can support them. So we're excited to introduce that YRBS survey, that school climate survey, to the middle level students. At the high school, they're really busy. 9th grade especially, they hit it hard in the health classes. Again, I won't go through every bullet there. Certainly, if you have any questions, let us know, but there is a good foundation. But going forward, one of the things that came out of the discussions with the teachers was, let's not focus so much on how to protect yourself necessarily, but let's also educate students on what aggressive sexual behavior looks like. What does perpetrator behavior look like? What does predatory behavior look like? So we thought that is a direction that we would go in at the high school level. Again, parent information and engagement. I have a teenage son. I know, though, that sometimes the schools understand kids' behavior better than parents do. They might be privy to what kids are involved in and what behaviors they might be engaged in. And so we want to make sure that we're in conversation with parents. And so some of that school climate data that we have is really powerful. Shelley Warren did a great presentation the other day to high school teachers using that school climate data. We agreed that we want to get that to the community very, very soon. Frankly, there's been I think that data, though we've kind of held it close for too long, and I think we're interested in kind of really publicizing it and using it to identify, where should we be directing our resources, human resources, and training resources and all that. And then an online training that at the 9th grade level that we want to explore as well. So that's sort of the curriculum piece of it. We're also excited about the parent engagement part of it. when we talked about this administratively, one of the things that came out was this idea that understanding the primary role that parents play in this conversation, and that parents are children's first teachers. We want to support, we want to arm parents with information as best we can, but at the end of the day, parents are our kids' first teachers, and we understand that a lot of parents want to take control of this conversation. We have to be respectful of that. We're excited to bring in Jetta Berninger, March 26th, 7 o'clock, Long Meadow High, and she's the executive director of Mass Kids, and hopefully she'll equip our parents with the tools, the words, the skills they need to talk to their kids about this very, very sensitive topic. And Jetta is also the same person that will come back to be with the staff in August of 18.
Can I just
Yep,
ask a quick
sure.
question? When we have these special parent programs, are they recorded?
This one we can.
This one will
This
be,
one will be.
okay.
Mostly
Okay.
not.
Yeah,
And
Mostly
is
don't
that
miss.
because the presenters won't allow for it? Okay.
yeah. So that's, we'll make sure that we do that, and
Okay. Maybe we
because
can put it on the website
Yeah,
for parents to easily
we-
access it.
Yeah, we know that it's tough if you have it at one time.
Yep.
We often hear from parents, I couldn't make it, can you repeat it?
Yeah.
Was it taped?
Okay.
And then continued PTO, PTA, PAC, SEAL engagement. I think Jen sat with our PTOs a few years back, and that's something that we'd love to refresh that. There's new parents, new PTOs, new PACs, and so the more we can use the resources we have and push it out to the PTOs and the PACs, I think that the better off we'll be. So hopefully that will happen in the future. And then finally, I don't have any specifics on this, but we know that, we've got some policy work to do to make sure that there's that policy framework in place. I know the policy subcommittee had taken a look at this earlier in the year around like a code of conduct for staff that specifically addresses the issues here. So there's a lot of moving parts. I think we're attacking this from a lot of different angles. I want to thank, again, Sue, the administrators, school committee for, kind of making this a priority for us. And I think we're taking, I'd like to think that we're taking the lead, at least as far as I know locally. I mean, I don't know what's happening nationally in school districts, but I think it would be great if we are a leader, can become a leader in this area. So happy to answer, any questions you have, or yep.
Michelle, can I ask Jen if she has anything to add, since she's here, and I know that she's been working? Would you be
She's okay with it. I'm okay with her coming to the podium. Are you, Jen? On the spot.
You don't have to. If you don't.
Thank you, Jen. Just so people can hear you, that mic there. Thank you.
First of all, I just really wanted to thank you in person for all of the hard work that you've done in terms of spearheading this issue for our community. I know what a force you've been, and I really appreciate it and have so much respect for the work that you do. And I just wanted to know if, there was anything that you wanted to add in terms of all the important points that Marty has made and all the discussions that you've had.
Great, thank you. Should I say who I am?
No, you don't.
I don't need to.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. I think this is a really strong framework. I'm very happy with it. I think we've come a long way. The two areas that I would just kind of point out that were addressed on the framework that to me are the key areas of focus are the elementary level is a real opportunity. Kids at that age need really specific body safety teaching. All the groundwork that we're doing is wonderful and great, but kids that age don't know they're being tricked, and even up to the middle school level too. Like, they don't realize that the person that they're talking to, is smarter than them and is going to trick them into something that they shouldn't be doing. And so I think something very specific. I know at the wellness meeting we talked about even just using children age-appropriate book that could be read to the children and have a little discussion with the teacher or something like that. It doesn't have to be long. It can be kind of built in somewhere, but it needs to be really specific, especially at the elementary level, and not just saying, don't let people be mean to you. It's got to be, these are the parts of your body that are covered with the bathing suit. They're private. No one should be touching or looking at those. If that ever happens, there are all kinds of different adults that you can tell that will help you. So that's pretty much it for that.
Was that K through 5? This says 4th and 5th.
I would recommend K through 5. That's going to come down to what the committee and what everyone's comfortable with. Certainly in my own home, I started it well before then.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if parents were doing that, but frankly, most of them aren't because they don't know how to talk about it. And then the other kind of key piece is the policy piece, and that adds in the accountability piece. So culture of awareness is the first step, and then you also need the culture of accountability. So if a teacher suspects something, knows something, they know that they should come forward, they have to come forward. Policy says they have to, even if they're not sure. The policy says that if there's suspicious behavior, even if it's through social media policy or any other kind of policy, to just make sure that there's teeth in those policies, to give staff who aren't sure, who aren't investigators, who shouldn't be investigating, to give them the tool to come forward and report it. So those are the kind of two key areas, is the elementary level to me and the policy piece. I thought, I was really happy with what I just saw, so thank you.
Okay, wait, hold on. We have Russ and Sue.
Oh, do you want to? Go ahead.
I just wanted to let Jen know that we are waiting a shipment of books for the early elementary kids. So I think the 4th and 5th is the health curriculum we currently have in place, but we are definitely diving into that. We got a bunch from your list, and we did some more research, and we want to vet everything first. But
Of course.
Just, yep. So maybe they even came today. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for those ideas. Appreciate it.
Should I go back?
Wait for a second,
Okay,
just in
all right.
case anyone else has a question, if you don't mind.
No, I do not mind. I'm not sure what I don't know what the policy is.
You're an expert, and you are helping us answer some questions.
Michelle's in
but
charge.
Thank you.
All right, that's why I'm looking at it.
Okay, you're okay. You won't get yelled at, I will. So.
Okay, good. As long as Russ doesn't talk to me, right?
You gotta look out for him.
Now I don't know what to say. So first of all, I think this is very good, actually. And so I have, unfortunately, a lot of experience with it at work and going through situations like this. And I will say that what you just said is very important. A lot of schools, I don't think, are focusing enough on teaching the kids what to say or when something's bad. And my experience has been, it's usually the staff member. I mean, I find the 10% disturbing, by the way. I can't believe it's that high. I would have thought like 1%. And even that would not be good. But 10% is crazy. That's 1 in 10 kids.
I believe that's physical touching,
So-
too. That's not even just verbal harassment. So it's a lot higher than you want to think it is.
Yeah.
So from what I've seen, I think the way that happens is that you have staff members that it's usually the one that's got the boundary's way too low in the first place. So it's often the staff member people really like. And so you have kids that like them, the parents that like them. And the problem is that's sometimes the person that's actually doing something they shouldn't. And so that can go on usually when I get involved, oftentimes it'll be like 15 years later. So it's been going on for over a decade or 2 decades. And then finally somebody comes forward, and then the people around that person say, I noticed that was kind of weird. I mean, to go to what you were saying, or, I thought maybe I should say something, but, everybody loves them or her. And by the way, it is both. I mean, I see almost equal between female and male. So I think that's a key point, is that people have to understand, be taught from a very young age. I would say kindergarten, you're right. All the way through that this is what's inappropriate, and we will take it very seriously if it happens. And I think this, what Superintendent O'Shea just put on the board, that's the way to do it. I mean, but I think it's also making it clear to people that sometimes you got to have an uncomfortable conversation, because people feel very bad later. By the time I get involved and somebody comes to me and says, I taught in the classroom next to the person for 20 years, and I always thought it was a little weird, but I just didn't want to get, it ruins a person's career. And so there's always that balance of that, and it's very difficult for people to come forward, especially the kid, because the kid will come forward and the other kids say, why are you getting, Mr. So-and-so in trouble? We love him. We don't want him. You're overreacting. There's a ton of that when these things come forward.
Social follow-up.
And so usually what I try to do is you get all the kids in the class, and then all the people they think might have known something, you just expand it greatly so that it's not just that one kid. You try to get it so it's the people over the years that have also had the same issue. And usually you find it's a whole string of people. So I think that's how you get to the 10%, is it's just one person, but they affect so many kids over time. And that's why, maybe that number's so high, is that one person gets away with it for a long time before they get caught often. I rarely catch the first time it happens is usually not when I'm involved. It's usually happened a number of times before before an attorney's involved or the principals or the superintendents. But this is a great way to start teaching that's how you deal with it.
I just want to say that really coming at it from those 4 different angles that Superintendent O'Shea put up there about, talking to the kid, addressing the kids, the parents, the staff, and the policy, that's how you change the culture around this issue. You got to come at it from all different angles so that everybody knows that this is something that we don't do here. This doesn't happen in Long Meadow, and if it does, we deal with it right now, and we address it now, and it's taken care of. So I commend that approach of really coming at it from all angles.
Thank you. Any other, Stephanie?
I just wanted to say that conference that Marty and I went to, and Jen Falcone was there and presented. It was incredible, and to Marty's credit, I think he was the only superintendent there, and they had made mention of it. And then Jetta, who's going to come speak here, had also said that I think they had a booth up at MASC one time, and nobody attended. People don't want to touch this unless they have to. And I think that when Marty says we want to be a leader in this, I can't be more excited and more proud of what he just put in front of us and has been working on, because I do think we will be at the forefront of this. I had spoken with Jetta and I had spoken with Jen about that policy piece and really wanting that in place, both for our district and then really to present it to MASC and have the other districts adopt it, because there's nothing out there. I think we've scoured everything from private schools to public schools, and there really is nothing out there. And if you want to change the culture and you want to say this doesn't happen here, you need to send that message out to everyone that if it happens, we're going to talk about it. We've got policies in place to address it so that if it happens, we're going to shut it down, kind of thing that really changes every part of it. And then, giving the kids the information, like Jen said, on all those fronts are so important. And I really do feel like there isn't anything out there, and that this is really a powerful thing we're seeing in front of us. So I'm really excited about it.
You're right that it's been there's been a lot of high-profile private school events, and so that conference there was good representation of private school administration, but I'd sent it off to the Superintendent's Association, and it seemed to fall on deaf ears.
They don't want to touch it, I don't think, unless
it's
they
interesting. So,
have to.
and I would just want to reassure parents too that we understand that we don't want to get ahead of parents on this, and we want to make sure that parents understand that as we take steps forward in this direction, that we will keep them up to speed on where we're headed and what we're doing.
Thank you. I have a quick question on is there anything that we've put up on the website already in terms of resources? I know, Jen, you've been a great person to forward information or whatever, but if there's anything that we can put up for parents, at the elementary level books that might be appropriate or anything, if we have those suggestions already, maybe we can find an area to just post them and make them accessible for people.
Just say one thing on that, just because Jen has given me resources, but it was really in talking about the parents, those resources were so helpful in learning as a parent how to talk about this with your kids. So I think that that's really where that piece is, really trying to figure out how do you talk about this and just have that discussion. There was so much eye-opening information in there that so many opportunities as a parent, and I think that is part of it when Marty talks about the parents, is really just giving those parents the information so that they can do, have these discussions at home and learn how to talk and open that door, and things that we do that you can kind of change that, just thinking about your behaviors and your discussions in a different way were really helpful. And she offered those book titles to me, and
So anything we can get up to just help parents who would like more information on how to educate their children and that sort of thing. Jess?
I just have a really quick statement, and it's not at all, I don't have any sort of training other than being a child abuse neglect attorney. The specifics of curriculum, I don't have a lot of training, but the thing that popped into my head that I wanted to share is helping kids to trust their intuition is such an important piece to this. And I think as a society, we have some work to do in that area in terms of just because it's an adult or someone older than you doesn't mean they're right. And if you have a feeling or you have a strange tummy ache or something in your body that doesn't feel right, I wonder, and you may have already covered this, in your discussions and administrative discussions, but really honing in on empowering kids to trust themselves when they feel that something feels wrong or, that they're in maybe an unsafe situation. And that's something I talk to my kids a lot about, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing to that. So when I attended this conference, I'm usually like a front seater, and I always ask questions.
No, you?
Yeah.
No.
So what? And I throw myself out there, like asking questions, because it's not an area that I have a lot of experience or knowledge on. So one of the things was, I was sitting there thinking, I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, why aren't you talking more about what these kids can do and talking more about those boundaries and how arming these kids and the part that's in there is really important in terms of boundaries. Kids need that knowledge. But what I got back was like, this isn't up to the kids. This is up to the adults around them to protect them. And it really flipped my thinking. And I was like, you are right. And so, that part is important, that knowledge part, but this isn't up to the kids, and that's the cultural piece. And so when we talk about policy and we talk about PD, and it's not, I think that some teachers may look at this and be like, it's really creating this culture going forward. Like, we don't want you here. If you have, this issue, you need to get help for yourself. We don't want you here, and we have policies in place to make sure, that you're not going to come here. So it really was about protecting those kids and not putting it on them, but giving them some information. So I wanted to send that out there because, of course, I asked it, and I was thinking, I want to arm my kids and make sure that they're safe. But really, so much of it is about we're there to protect them, and we need to have these things in the school and policies in the school and all of these things in place to make sure that we are. So.
Thank you, and thank you so much to everyone who participated and advocated for this. I think it's really, I'm so excited to see it here in front of us.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the statement of interest for the middle school.
All right, so you have the two statements of interest, one from Williams, one from Glenbrook. And for those watching who might be new to this issue, I think the best way to summarize this, we don't have a presentation, but the best way to summarize this is I think there's generally a consensus that something has to be done. We've got two aging facilities that haven't experienced renovation ever. And the issues that are in front of us go beyond regular maintenance. They go beyond what capital could address. Really, we need bigger solutions. And these two statements of interest would be to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And it would be basically our request to partner with the MSBA to address the facility needs at Glenbrook and Williams. These SOIs don't offer a solution. These SOIs simply identify a problem. And they identify a problem that we are seeking a solution on. And so I want to thank Tom for going through these with a fine-tooth comb and updating them from the documents that you reviewed so thoroughly last year. I'll say frankly that the updates here are largely in relation to new budget information, new capital information. We're changing dates. The story that we're telling here, it has not changed. So Tom and Diane went through and they highlighted the adjustments that were made to the document. There really isn't anything that I feel like I need to call your close attention to. I would just say the vote will ask you to identify the priority statements that we are making to the MSBA. Would be, you'll see it on page 5 in each document, number 1, number 5, and number 7. And so, number 1, replacement or renovation of building which is structurally unsound or otherwise in a condition seriously jeopardizing health, safety of school children, where no alternative exists. 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of the school facility systems, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, ventilation systems, to increase conservation and decrease energy-related costs. 7, replacement or addition of obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and local requirements. So those are the 3 priority statements. Those haven't changed from last year. And the votes, the MSBA required votes are in your packet. They are lengthy votes, but they're required by MSBA regulations. The thought would be if you approve the submissions of the SOIs, we would go to the select board on March 19th and seek their approval also. So both boards would have to approve the submission of these SOIs to the school building authority. So, for your consideration, the 2 SOIs to the MSBA.
Okay. This one says Glenbrook.
You should have one that says Glenbrook and one that says Williams.
We do.
Oh, that's an error. Yeah, I'm sorry. It says school name. Thank you. Page 3.
Which one? On Williams?
Yeah, on page 3 of the Williams, it says school name of the district priority SOI. It just says Glenbrook.
Well, I think the
Is that the
district
priority
voted
school?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Pick one of the 2
So you
that
just
you're
put that
gonna
on both?
prioritize.
That's right.
Well, it was the one from
Okay.
last year, so
Thank
I
you.
left it the same, but
I
I was
see.
gonna bring it up that you're gonna have to decide which of the 2 will be your priority.
Priority.
So you recall, the
Okay.
thought last year was that Glenbrook was the priority SOI, given the safety and security concerns that we identified. You know, Williams is an older building. The systems at Williams are probably needier. I'm not an engineer, not an architect, but they're probably needier. But Glenbrook, you have the issue of the open classrooms and the challenge of renovating that building and the security and safety concerns, so.
Thank you. Do you have a question, or?
I just have a question. Was the feedback that you received from the MSBA last year, do you feel that it makes sense strategically to continue to move forward with Glenbrook?
They offer no formal feedback. So sometimes when you apply for grants, they'll get back to you and say, this is where you were deficient in your application. They don't do that. They simply say, not at this time.
But, yeah, I guess I'm being too concrete. Like, did they give, just in terms of the substance, can we gauge is what I'm asking?
I think, and some of us around the table have heard MSBA folks talk. I think what we've heard is that they are sympathetic, relatively more sympathetic to applications that highlight safety and security issues. So if that answers your question, is that, and so I think that was an important part of the consideration of making Glenbrook the priority SOI.
If there are no objections, I was going to make the motion on there, or just so we can, no, do you have?
Well, I was just going to add to what Marty said.
Okay.
Because, so I went to one of those trainings at the Cape the year before last, and I talked to Mr. McCarthy about it, and I guess they showed on the screen, they have kind of ranking. Safety and security is kind of at the top, maintenance and systems are kind of at the bottom of their rankings. So, because that's really a repair project more than anything. So with replacement or new buildings, they look at safety, security as kind of one of the top factors. So I spoke with him out in the hallway after the meeting. It seemed like he was pretty clear that if you're going to put one as the lead, you should put the one that has the safety issues and security issues. I don't think it matters for our application per se, because I think they'd be looking for us to, I'm sure they would prefer if we had one building. It'd make the project more likely to pass. because then they only have to fund one, and they don't have to worry about a second one 10 years later. But that's just speculation on my part, that piece of it.
There weren't were there any major changes or anything? I mean, that would have been a major change
Yeah,
last year.
nothing, Tom, anything, nothing really substantive. It's,
No, I try to highlight any change that would be submitted in this year's SOI.
Stephanie?
So did they look at both schools? They do walk through both, right?
Yeah, they did.
It was a very.
And so in terms of what one you put forward, it really doesn't matter, or?
It's not gonna.
You have to on the document, but they came and they visited both schools for the equal amount of time. They asked a lot of questions about both schools, about possibly combining, if we were open to basically any alternatives to what we had now. So it's again, I think goes back to what Marty said at the beginning. This is really identifying that we have a problem at each school, and then they come in kind of in person with all of their experts, look at it.
So this time we made it through for the walkthrough with Glenbrook at name the first one. They looked at both of them though.
Yep.
So would it make sense to just keep it like that? We're going on a second time. Keep it. We still stand by what we just did, and here you go.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no objections, I'll put the motion on the table. Okay, it's long. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 14th, 2018, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the town of Long Meadow, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 14th, 2018, for the Williams Middle School, located at 410 Williams Street, Long Meadow, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Replacement or renovation of a building which is structurally unsound or otherwise in a condition seriously jeopardizing the health and safety of school children where no alternative exists. Replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and appropriate and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city, town, regional school district to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So
Second.
that was the motion. Seconded by Karen.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, you're welcome, and we will move to discussion and a vote. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will move to a vote, and we do not need roll call anymore. Beth is not on the phone. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Seeing none, the motion passes. I'll move the second motion. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 14th, 2018, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the town of Long Meadow, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 14th, 2018, for the Glenbrook Middle School, located at 110 Cambridge Circle, Long Meadow, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Replacement or renovation of a building which is structurally unsound or otherwise in a condition seriously jeopardizing the health and safety of school children where no alternative exists. Replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city, town, regional school district to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. That was moved by me. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Let's see.
Sure.
Is there anything else? Yes.
I think I would recommend maybe a vote designating Glenbrook as your priority
Okay.
SOI, just
Perfect.
to have it on record. I think we had to do that last year.
Okay. I move to designate Glenbrook as our priority SOI.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this rest of this is no action that we need to take. Oh, do we need to have me sign this, or is it all?
I have to
designated?
type the minutes, you have to approve the minutes, you have to.
Okay.
Then you.
But there's no other.
That's the 28th.
Okay, so there's no other action tonight that we need to take.
We'll get it all done in time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on. We have the discussion of the school committee's legal counsel. I actually asked for a description. The attorneys in the Labor, Employment, and School Law Departments at Deutsch Williams have represented the Long Meadow School Committee and the Long Meadow Public Schools since 2008. We received notice that our attorneys, including Liz Valerio, Nick Dominello, Rob Hillman, John Foskett, Carolyn Thibault, Erica Crystal, Wendy Chu, Matt Buckley, and Jen King, will be at a new firm called Valerio, Dominello, and Hillman, LLC, effective April 1st, 2018, and that Deutsch Williams will be closing on March 31st, 2018. The attorneys that we have worked with will be the same, and the rates for legal work at Valerio, Dominello, and Hillman are the same as they were when our attorneys were at Deutsch Williams. As Deutsch Williams will be closing as a firm on March 31st, we need to respond to the letters from Deutsch Williams and Valerio, Dominello, and Hillman regarding change in representation.
Michelle, do we need
So-
a motion on this?
We do, and I have a recommended motion,
Oh,
which I'm
okay.
happy to take. I move to have the attorneys at Valerio, Dominello, and Hillman represent the Long Meadow School Committee and the Long Meadow Public Schools effective April 1st, 2018, and to authorize the chair to sign the letters from Deutsch Williams and Valerio, Dominello, and Hillman indicating the committee's decision.
Second.
I'll give you this, Diane. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Let's see, we will move on. Arbor Day, tree planting at Wolf Swamp Road School.
So the facilities, or the buildings and grounds director at the DPW, Jeff Ballman, has brought forward, again, a plan to work with the Long Meadow Gardeners to present a tree to the town, and to have that tree planted at Wolf Swamp in connection with Arbor Day festivities at Wolf Swamp. So we're excited about this. Last year it happened at Blueberry. So this year the plan would be to plant a tree with the gardeners at Wolf Swamp. So we would seek your consideration of that. The reason it would come to the committee is because it sort of alters the grounds, and it's a donation that you ought to consider accepting.
Jess?
It's not the financial donation, it's the alteration to the grounds that comes in.
That relates to your policy,
Yeah.
correct? Yep.
Okay. Just to keep things moving, I'm going to make the motion. I move that the school committee accept with genuine appreciation the donation and plan to plant a tree on the grounds of Wolf Swamp Road School.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, and next we have the task ceiling task force topic. Marty, will you
Sure.
help us with that?
So this relates to the joint task force on the tax ceiling. And so there was discussion around identifying 4 community members who would serve on that task ceiling task force. That's a tongue twister. And the agreement was that the school committee would appoint 2 and the select board would appoint 2. And to expedite the process, we thought that it would be okay to use the town's posting process to identify citizen volunteers for committees, to use their process to identify individuals who might be appointed by the school committee. So when we have that list, we would bring it back to the school committee for consideration. We'll have to figure out a way to work through identifying the 2 that would be recommended by the school committee. So it might be a matter of reconvening that task force to go through the list and recommend 2 to the whole committee.
Right,
So-
so that, and then we have another meeting scheduled before the,
I'm not sure when the next meeting of that task force is. Yeah.
does anyone remember? I know we
I
have
put
one
it in.
scheduled, and I think it was to address the applicants at that time.
We do. Let me see when it is. 28th at 5.
Wait, when?
March 28th
Right
at 5.
before.
So
Next
right
meeting.
before, oh,
Yep.
okay.
So at that meeting, yeah, you can identify the 2 that you'd like to have the whole committee consider and possibly approve. So I think this was sort of an FYI, just to kind of let you know where that stood.
Okay. Jess, thank you.
Just by way of suggestion, in order to reach the school community, could we consider sending out an all-school email to parents on this?
Yeah, I think, what did we do already?
It went through, the town manager's executive assistant posted it. I believe the way they posted is through advertisements in the Long Meadow News and maybe the Reminder, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So if the committee wanted, we could do that. We could include it with some, I don't know what their deadline is to get the names back, but I could include it in some all-school email if the committee wanted that.
I
I
just
think
think
it's soon, the deadline, but I do like that idea.
Yeah, just in terms of direct contact with our parents, I think that that's the best way. Otherwise, people will not see that. And that's my concern about just going through the town. So
Yep.
if everybody else feels comfortable with.
So I don't see a reason not to, or is there, Marty, do you?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that'd be fine.
Okay. Okay.
But to direct them towards the
application
town would
process.
collect the
Exactly.
Deputy House.
the names.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could, if the email could say, like, looking for volunteers for the tax, just so parent.
And a link to her email, so that they can
Yeah,
ask for that.
because parents I'm just thinking of how parents think in terms of how they go through information and how they get information.
Mm-hmm.
And if it says, like, this in the subject line, something like, look, volunteers for the the task force committee or something.
The word volunteer, is what
Then
parents jump at.
the people who are interested will click and read instead of just shuffling through. Because if it comes through as a sort of like, vanilla like subject line, I'm afraid people won't see it. That was a long
You want
walk
it to be- you
for
want
a
it to be-
short point.
You want it to be a standalone email, or
It would have more impact if it was like a really quick standalone email that just says, this is what we're looking for.
Is there anyone that objects to that suggestion? Okay.
I don't object, but I agree that if it's included with a bunch of other information.
Then that gets-
Parents won't see it.
Yeah, parents tend to shut off at a certain
saying
point.
people don't read our emails.
We all have a certain attention span.
And I do think this is important enough to stand on its
Yep.
own merits.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Thank
Put
you.
it on a snow day announcement.
Yeah, there you go.
They'll listen to that one.
I
Put
know
it the
Mr.
night before.
I know Mr. Massa doesn't read my emails.
Did you come to work? The building was
I get
closed?
those phone calls though.
Oh, okay. Thank
what-
you.
yeah.
So I don't think we need any action to be taken at this
No.
point. Okay. Diane, did you, that's good, no action? Okay. All right. I'm going to move us into executive session. I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to MGL's Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining with Unit A, and Purpose 7, to act under the authority of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22C, to approve executive session minutes from the committee's meetings on 1/24/18, 1/31/18, and 2/7/18, and to act under the authority of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22G, to review the minutes from the committee's executive sessions on 1/24/18, 1/31/18, and 2/7/18, and to determine if continued non-disclosure is warranted.
Second.
All those in favor, or do we need a roll call vote for this? Now this is a move to executive session.
Jess Hutchins, aye.
Melanie Rothstein, aye.
Michelle Grodzki, aye.
Russell Dupre, aye.
Stephanie Jasmine, aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. This was not to reconvene into open session.
Thank you, Sue.
Do I need to change that back? Not to reconvene into open session.